بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم سبحانک لا علم لنا الا ما علمتنا انک انت العلیم الحکیم. I am very grateful that the members of this commission have assembled today from faraway places as well as from rain-drenched places like Karachi. But first of all, I would welcome Justice Sajjad Ali Shah to the commission, who has in fact travelled from Peshawar and started work at Islamabad, probably because of this meeting. I'm grateful that Qazi Saab has spared time from his vacation, and Akhtar Saab has gathered the strength to. He's not on record. He's not on file, is he? Akhtar Saab has disappeared from the screen. जी क्या हुआ? Connecting to audio. So, shall we continue without a? हाँ जी, 2 minutes ठहर जाए. Sorry, Qazi Saab, Akhtar Saab is offline, so we are trying to connect with him. Yes. Akhtar Saab, can you hear us?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you. So, welcome and thank you for joining us from London. And all of us were thinking of you and praying for your good health. I hope you are in good health. Is that right?
Inshallah, sir, I will be in good health. I'm proceeding this evening to the US. And, well, just keep praying for me.
Inshallah. We all.
Lots of prayers for you. Wish you good health and quick recovery.
So now very quickly, let's move on with the agenda, which is to consider the appointment of 5 judges on the Supreme Court bench. There are some recommendations by myself as the chairman of this commission, which I propose for the commission to kindly consider. I have already written in the note the reasons for recommending some and bypassing others. The paper book that you have received contains some data, and the detailed data is available in the larger paper books, which unfortunately I think neither Qazi Saab nor Akhtar Saab have received, because we sent that material through email and through WhatsApp. But anyway, it's nice that you are with us, and any questions that you have, we can answer those as they take place. So, just to complete the formality, I propose the names of Justice Kaisar Rashid Khan, Chief Justice, Peshawar High Court, for appointment to the Supreme Court. Justice Hassan Azhar Rizvi of the Sindh High Court. For such appointment, Mr. Justice Muhammad Shafi Siddiqui from the Sindh High Court, Mr. Justice Nematullah Pulpoto, again from the Sindh High Court, and Mr. Justice Shahid Waheed from the Lahore High Court. The point about the selection, firstly, from the different provinces, is that we have 3 seats that have been vacated by judges adorning. One of them still adorns the Supreme Court, but we have 2 seats that have been vacated by Justice Gulzar Ahmed and Justice Maqbool Bakir Saab. Justice Sajjad Ali Shah Saab, who is with us, shall be laying down his robes middle of next month. So there will be 3 seats, and for that reason there are 3 proposals. From Peshawar High Court, Justice Mazhar Alam Khan Mia Khel has retired recently, and in his place Justice Kaisar Rashid Khan has been proposed. Justice Shahid Waheed is proposed to fill the seat vacated by Justice Qazi Amin Ahmed Sahab, Muhammad Amin Ahmed Sahab. So this is the ratio, but now if you like, I can read through the material that I've already sent, or if you like, we can start discussing the proposals that I've sent, and we can start with Justice Sarma Jalal Usmani Sahab, and then move down the table to the other side. So in your turn, gentlemen, Justice Qazi Faez Sahab, being the senior puisne judge, will be speaking after Justice Tariq Masood Sahab, and Mr. Ashtar Asaf Ali will be addressing after the law minister has spoken. Thank you very much. Justice Sarmad Usmani Sahab, may I request you to express your views on the suggestions made?
All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Chief Justice, and thank you, gentlemen, for being here, and my best wishes to all of you, especially to Ashtar Saab for his impending surgery. I hope everything goes well and he's able to rejoin us hale and hearty. All right, can you everybody hear me? Can you hear me?
I can.
Nahi, Qazi Sahab.
Qazi Saab, can you hear me?
No.
I can, but it's garbled, but please go ahead.
All right, okay. Now, as far as the Sindh High Court is concerned, I can say with a bit of conviction that perhaps I know these honorable judges who have been nominated and those who have been bypassed, because I am from that High Court. I remained judge and the Chief Justice as well. And some of the nominees I had recommended to be on the bench. So as far as Justice Syed Hassan Azhar Rizvi is concerned, I fully endorse his nomination. I know for a fact that he's a thorough gentleman, and his work is all right, and he otherwise is above board. So I would heartily endorse his nomination. And so far as Justice Muhammad Shafi Siddiqui is concerned, I also think that he's a good judge, and he should prove an asset to the bench here. But I think there are other judges who are just as good, and they have been ignored, and they were senior to Justice Pool Poto. Now, as far as Justice Pool Poto is concerned, I know that he is above board, and I know that he is good in criminal work. But you see, I have read his judgments, and his judgments are more or less stereotyped criminal judgments, like criminal appeals and bail applications, and frankly speaking, there is hardly any innovation which one can do in a criminal case, because the principles and the law is very well settled, and even the law says how to write a criminal judgment. It's in the CRPC, so you can't really deviate from that. So therefore, I think that perhaps those who are senior to him should be considered, like Mr. Justice Abbasi and Mr. Justice Nadeem Azhar, Nadeem Rizvi, Nadeem Saab. Now, these two gentlemen I think that we should consider them. And as far as Justice Abbasi is concerned, again, there is no doubt about his integrity. It is said that he is only done tax work, but I think he's when he came on the bench, he's done other work as well. I can see from his disposal that he's done. He's done. He's done work, but mostly he's done tax work, all right, but he's done family, he's done rent, he's done bail applications, he's done miscellaneous work, and appeals, criminal appeals also he's done. And so there is civil revisions, high court appeals. So tax cases, of course, because he was always a tax lawyer, so I suppose he was put on the tax bench, and the maximum number of disposal is regarding his tax matters. But that's no surprise. because obviously he has always remained a tax lawyer and he specialized in taxation. But otherwise, I find him to be a rounded gentleman. It is said that perhaps his demeanor is a bit towards his fellow judges and towards the bar is perhaps a bit strict, and maybe he's not a very congenial sort of a person, to put it that way. But I have found him, I have been meeting him over the years. I have never found any sort of defect in this part of his personality. He's always been very nice and, very pleasant as far as I'm concerned. So, but I'm sure that if the Honorable Chief Justice must have made his investigations, and I'm sure he's right. But I believe that whatever has been said about him was due to the fact that he was bypassed, not once but twice. So therefore he was slightly bitter about it. So you see, if a person is bypassed for no rhyme or reason, and obviously he may be slightly bitter. If a person, for example, is prosecuted for no rhyme and reason, and ultimately it turns out that he's been wrongly prosecuted, obviously that person will be bitter. So perhaps I don't think this may be a flaw in his character. This could probably be something which boiling up inside him, and maybe sometimes he expresses it. But otherwise, I found him to be all right. I mean, he writes reasonable judgments. He writes good judgments also. I've read his judgments. And he is amenable to work, to disposal. And insofar as Nadeem Saab is concerned, his disposal is low. I agree with that. And perhaps, I don't know, for whatever reason, he's not being writing too many judgments. But the judgments which he writes are up to the mark. That I can say. So my thinking would be that perhaps we could consider either one of these gentlemen to be appointed rather than going down the line and appointing Mr. Pulpur. So that's as far as these from Sindh are concerned. As far as the gentleman from Peshawar High Court is concerned, obviously he's the senior most, and I'm sure that from his the type of work he's done and from his judgments also, I find is up to the mark, and I'm sure that he is a gentleman. So I would fully endorse his candidature, and similarly I would endorse the candidature of Mr. Waheed, Justice Waheed, because the other three gentlemen, I've seen their judgments, and I think that as far as judgment writing is concerned, as far as the quality of the judgments are concerned, Justice Waheed is much above them. And so therefore, and otherwise he's a gentleman, he's above board. So I would endorse that. Thank you very much. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Justice Sajad Ali Shah Sahab.
Thank you very much. To some extent, I agree with the view expressed by Justice Sarmat Jalal Usmani Sahab. But the reasons which the Honorable Chief Justice has given for bypassing the three judges from Sindh, we have yet to hear the Honorable Chief Justice. So far as these three judges are concerned which are under consideration, so I personally know them, I have worked with them, and I have found them excellent gentlemen. They know the law, and I think anyone who practices in Sindh would not be able to raise a finger on any of their qualities. So I fully support all the three nominees.
Thank you so much. And
So far as Mr. Kaisar Rashid is concerned, sir, he is the Chief Justice, and the data given we have seen, and I also fully endorse his nomination. And though I do not know much about Mr. Shahid Waheed, but I again rely on the data provided to me, and I feel that his nomination is also fine.
thank you very much. Justice Ijazul Sahab.
Thank you very much, sir. I welcome Justice Usmani, Justice Ijazul Shah, who has joined us for the first time. Mr. Tarar has been here for a while, and the representative of Pakistan Bar Council is a very senior counsel. Welcome to you all. Qazi Saab, Attorney General Saab. Sir, I have carefully gone through the recommendations that you have made and the reasons that you have recorded for recommending some and not recommending others. I have also carefully examined the judgments of all the gentlemen and the work that they have done over the past many years since elevation, and the judgments which they have sent as their 10 best judgments. As far as the first recommendee, Mr. Qaisar Rashid, Mr. Justice Qaisar Rashid is concerned, I mean, he ticks all the boxes. According to my information, he has immaculate integrity. His competence is not questionable. His temperament, as many people as I could talk to, including the ones coming from KP, who are our colleagues in the Supreme Court, they all endorse the fact that he is a thorough gentleman and has exactly the temperament that a judge needs to have. Likewise, the number of his judgments show that he has done a fair amount of work, and he has done work on all sides. There are reported judgments of the criminal side, civil side, constitutional side, and I would call him an all-rounder, which essentially is a requirement that we need of the Supreme Court at this point in time. As far as, so I recommend him, and I entirely agree with the recommendation of the Honorable Chief Justice. This is in addition to the excellent administrative work that he has done in setting up courts in Waziristan and the Fatah area. Now, as far as Justice Hassan Raza Rizvi, Justice Shafi Siddiqui, and Justice Nematullah Phulpoto is concerned, I have read their judgments, and I would admit I have no first-hand knowledge of their personality or their temperament, but as much as I can gather from whatever information I have received, and I have discussed this information with my colleagues in the Supreme Court as well as some of the judges of the High Court that I have had the opportunity of discussing, I find that all of the three judges that have been recommended again tick all boxes that we need to tick, which is integrity, competence, temperament, and capacity. Now, as far as Justice Nematullah Phulpoto is concerned, I can understand the preference of the Honorable Chief Justice for him, for the reason that the Chief Justice also has to see as to what is the requirement, the current requirement of the Supreme Court. We have thousands of hardcore criminal cases, murder appeals, and the rest. And right now we have only one judge who is a specialist and has not only practiced in that area but also has rendered remarkable judgments in the high courts. And I presently sit with him in the Supreme Court on a bench, and I find that he is fully in tune with what the law is, has been, and should be. But incidentally, we just have one judge on that score, and we desperately need not only a judge who is a workhorse, but who is also a specialist in this area. And Justice Nematullah Phulpoto, according to my information and the information that I have received from a number of High Court judges who have been on the bench with him, including Justice Sajjad Ali Shah, verify the fact that he is not only a prolific judgment writer, but has a very keen and a very good understanding of criminal law, and he could be a very good addition to the Supreme Court insofar as the requirement of a judge who specializes in criminal matters is concerned. So, understanding the concern of the Honorable Chief Justice of Pakistan, I fully endorse the view that we need a judge who specializes in criminal law in order to bolster our capacity to quickly deal with criminal matters of which there is a considerable backlog. Finally, Justice Shahid Waheed, I have been his Chief Justice, so has the Honorable Chief Justice of Pakistan, and so have some of the other judges who are from the Lahore High Court. And all of them are very clear about his capacity, his integrity, and his ability to write very good analytical judgments. And the quality of judgments, as Justice Sarmat Jalal Usmani has just said, is way above the first three gentlemen, who incidentally, the Honorable Chief Justice has been working on the civil side, but as has been noted, for a number of years he doesn't have any reported judgments, and whatever judgments have been reported deal with very routine matters. On the other hand, the gentlemen at number 2 and number 3 are again judges who have written routine judgments on the criminal and civil side, and do not, in my opinion, match up to the level of analysis and innovation in civil law that Justice Shahid Waheed is capable of doing. An additional advantage of elevating Justice Shahid Waheed is that, again, hardcore civil side expertise we do need in the Supreme Court at this point in time. And Justice Shahid Waheed has done a lot of work as a practicing lawyer, as a judge of the High Court, as well as when he sat in the division benches dealing with hardcore civil matters for which there is a requirement in the Supreme Court. Plus, in my humble opinion, Justice Shahid Waheed has the temperament and the capacity that we require in the Supreme Court with the sort of work we have. Just one final note that essentially the Chief Justice of Pakistan is the head of the team that he has to field in order to deal with all matters, civil, criminal, constitutional, which come to this court. And he has threadbare and very impartially looked at the various merits, demerits, strengths and weaknesses of all the judges, which is evident from the fact that he has made an extra effort not only to call for their 10 best judgments, but he has also made an effort to ask for judgments of other judges, junior and senior to this particular nominee, and has made an assessment with which I find myself in entire agreement. So I would wholeheartedly endorse all 5 recommendees that the Honorable Chief Justice has placed before this Commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judge Sahab. May I request Justice Sardar Tariq Masood Sahab to apprise us of his ideas and thoughts.
Thank you very much, sir. अख्तर साहब, अल्लाह आपको सेहत दे, आपकी मेहरबानी कि आप हमारे साथ हैं इस कंडीशन में भी। और मैं वेलकम करता हूं जनाब सजाद शाह साहब को कि वो हमारे मेंबर جوڈیشل کمیشن کے ممبر بنے. اور میں یہ بھی کہتا ہوں کہ نہ صرف یہ بہت ہی لکی ہیں بلکہ ان کو پریولیج ملا ہے کہ اپنے ہی سکسیسر کو یہ خود ہی اپوائنٹ کر کے جائیں, which he did. Now the recommendation which were given to us, these are, first of all, these are contradictory. On one hand, it was said that there would be a seniority plus competence, and for that purpose, from each high court, 3, 4 or 5, 6 judges will be judged. But we have seen that on the principle of seniority, the Chief Justice of Peshawar Court was nominated for appointment as a judge of Supreme Court. No data whatsoever for the other judges have been provided to us to make a comparative analysis. Presently, there are 4 vacancies for appointment as judge of the Supreme Court, and according to Article 175(8) of the Constitution of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, the Commission by majority of the total member can nominate one person for each vacancy to the Parliamentary Committee for appointment as judge of the Supreme Court. So the Constitution is not giving any mandate to this Commission for appointment of a judge of the Supreme Court for anticipated vacancies, which is being done now. Although in Rule 3.1 of the Commission, word anticipated is mentioned, was introduced, but the rules cannot overrule the article of the Constitution, which otherwise is quite clear, having no ambiguity. The letter dated 20th July 2022 is silent as to who amongst the judges of the High Court of Sindh has been proposed for anticipated vacancies. If this principle is to be followed, then of course we all and the other judges of the Supreme Court may be allowed to propose their successor, and they also be nominated and approved for appointment as anticipated judges of the Supreme Court. मेरी ख्वाहिश तो कम से कम ये है, बाकियों के बारे में कुछ नहीं कह सकता. Even otherwise, if we approve all the nominees judges, then of course number of the judges in the Supreme Court will be 18, which is against the Constitution. Although under Section 177 of the Constitution, the eligibility for appointment of a judge as a judge of the Supreme Court is 5-year service as judge of the High Court. But practice and propriety always demand that seniority principle shall be considered first, and in case of appointment of a junior judge, while ignoring the senior, and that too without assigning any valid reason. I will valid पे मैं जोर दे रहा हूँ जी. Eyebrow may be raised regarding their working in the relevant high courts. It was decided in the previous meeting of the Judicial Commission that there should be, sorry ऐसे वो आ रही है उसके ऊपर वो मिस्ट आ रही है, वो मुझे समझ ही नहीं आ रहा. अच्छा, that there should be criteria for appointment of the judges in the High Court and the Supreme Court, and for the said purpose a committee was constituted to suggest suitable amendments in the relevant rules and propose a criteria for appointment of judges to the Supreme Court. However, Unfortunately, neither the criteria nor the amended rules have been framed by the said committee till date. Although the Honorable Chief Justice has stated on previous meeting that integrity, capacity, temperament, and one thing more, competence, have been settled in that meeting. But even then, that has not been converted into the rules, and the matter was deferred for further deliberation to judge how the criteria will be determined. The list provided of the nominee judges, barring Chief Justice of the Peshawar High Court, who are the junior judges than their senior, and their senior judges are more eligible. So far, I have gone through the data for appointment as judges of the Supreme Court than the junior nominees. The letter written by Mr. Justice Ahmed Ali Sheikh indicates that he had earlier wrote a letter on 12th March 2022, which was not shared with us in this meeting, in which he had written that due to some circumstances, he is not interested for elevation as judge of the Supreme Court. He is nobody to refuse so. This letter may not be a reason for not considering him for appointment as judge of the Supreme Court. If he was appointed as a judge of the Supreme Court and he refused, then Article 206(2) of the Constitution will operate against him and he will be deemed to have been retired. Only then the next judge junior to him can be considered for appointment as judge of the Supreme Court. Even otherwise, in the Constitution, there is no provision or concept for getting consent or refusal from a judge, Chief Justice, for appointment as a judge of the Supreme Court. On the other hand, Justice Akhtar, who is second to Justice Ahmed Ali Sheikh in seniority amongst Chief Justices of the High Court of the country, has been superseded and completely ignored. No data or record regarding his work and capacity has been provided to the Commission. There is no reason available on record as to why he has been superseded. His integrity, capacity, temperament, etc. is above board, which is known to everyone. His judgments are being considered, discussed, and relied upon by the judiciary of other countries. Nobody can raise a finger toward his integrity, capacity, etc. But surprisingly, he was ignored despite the fact that he is the most senior judge amongst the Chief Justice of the High Court. हमारी एक इनफॉर्मल सी मीटिंग पहले हुई, उसमें चीफ साहब का कहना ये था कि इस्लामाबाद हाई कोर्ट का जज का यहाँ लाने का कोई कंसेप्ट है ही नहीं. 175 में इस्लामाबाद हाई कोर्ट का जिक्र है. 175 में इस्लामाबाद हाई कोर्ट में जजेस बनाने का भी जिक्र है. 175 में ये लिखा गया है कि जजेस को जब सुप्रीम कोर्ट लाया जाएगा वो फ्रॉम दी हाई कोर्ट से लाया जाएगा. वहां किसी का नाम नहीं लिखा होगा, पंजाब से लाया जाएगा, सिंध से लाया जाएगा, कोयटा से लाया जाएगा, वो लाया जाएगा. So the high courts, there are 5 high courts, and we have an example. Iqbal Umeedur Rahman was appointed as judge of the Supreme Court from Islamabad High Court. So his ignorance, usko ignore karna, this is, I say, he is the most senior Chief Justice of all the high courts, but he has been ignored at all, and there is no reason for that. It is quite clear that in the High Court of the Sindh and the Lahore High Court, and amongst the Chief Justices of all the High Courts, there are many senior judges than the nominees. for appointment as the judge of the Supreme Court. This amount to discrimination, which is against the mandate of the Constitution. We daily decided the cases in the courts on the basis of the discrimination. But why a discrimination is being done in our own institution? On the other hand, the propriety demands that the seniority must be considered first. If anyone is found not capable, despite being senior, for appointment as judge of the Supreme Court, valid reason, I just say again and again, valid reason. یہ نہیں کہ کسی کی 4 ججمنٹ فالتو ہو گئی ہیں تو وہ اب اس کی ویلڈ ریزن بن گئی, یا کوئی جنٹل مین ہے تو وہ ویلڈ ریزن بن گئی. بات یہ ہوگی کہ کس نے کیا کام کیا اور کس قسم کا کام کیا. For not appointing said senior judge shall be given. This would mean that the senior should not be considered for appointment in the Supreme Court, but the Honorable CJP's letter dated 20th July 2022 reveals in para 9 and specifically mentioned that those judges who have been ignored now can be appointed as judge of the Supreme Court in future. If they are eligible for appointment as a judge of the Supreme Court in future, then why presently they are not nominated for appointment as judge of the Supreme Court? کل اگر وہ بن سکتا ہے جناب چیف جج آف دی سپریم کورٹ, تو آج کیوں نہیں بن سکتا؟ یا تو اس کا راستہ بند کر دیں, کہہ دیں ہمیشہ میں کریئر ڈی بار ہو گیا, بات تو ختم, کیونکہ ہے ہی کمپیٹنٹ نہیں ہے, اس کی انٹیگریٹی خطرناک ہے, تو بند کر دیں اس کا راستہ. لیکن ونس یو سے کہ یہ کل آ سکتا ہے اور پھر وہ نہیں آ سکتا, ٹھیک ہے جی. If they are eligible for appointment as judge of the Supreme Court, وہ میں نے ابھی پڑھ دی, the data provided and the queries made from the different corner of the bar association indicate that the senior judges who have been ignored are more competent to become judges of the Supreme Court than the nominees. The violation of the seniority and competence will not only hurt their feeling, and if for the sake of argument, as mentioned para number 9 of the above said letter, in future they are appointed as judge of the Supreme Court, the said senior judges in the High Court will become junior to the nominees in the Supreme Court. And this is, I don't know, اس کو کیسے ہم عزم کر سکتے ہیں. We should not manipulate the system by making those who are juniors by them and then making them seniors in the Supreme Court. The Bar Council and Bar Association, who always stand for the judiciary against an unconstitutional act in our country, always done by the forces, have also very serious reservation regarding the appointment of the judges against the principle of seniority. And such reservation are the result of collective wisdom of legal fraternity. And the same cannot be lightly ignored. To abide by seniority principle has been their consistent stand for about a decade. ہمیشہ سے ان کا یہی سٹینڈ رہا ہے اور وہ یہی کہتے رہے. Sorry, sir. So far nominees from the High Court of Sindh are concerned, no data of Mr. Justice Ahmed Ali Sheikh is provided, and data provided regarding the nominees along with the 2 senior indicate that Mr. Justice Irfan Sadat Khan authored 169 detailed judgment and 28 short judgment out of 197 reported judgment. یہ جو ڈاٹا میں فراہم کیا گیا پتلی کاپی میں وہاں سے پڑھ رہا ہوں سر, آپ بھی سامنے رکھنا کہ دیکھنا چاہیے دیکھنا, میں وہیں سے کروں. Indicating that his detailed judgments were 86%, whereas Mr. Justice Akil Ahmed Abbasi authored 166 detailed judgment and 96 short judgment out of 262 reported judgment, indicating that his detailed judgments were 64%. Whereas Mr. Justice Sayyid Hassan Azhar Rizvi authored 70 detailed judgment and 65 short judgment. He relied more short judgments out of 135 reported judgment, indicating that his detailed judgments were 52%. Mr. Justice Nadeem Akhtar authored 152 detailed judgment and 63 short judgment out of 215 reported judgment, indicating that his detailed judgments were 71%. Mr. Justice Muhammad Shafi Siddiqui authored 106. This is what I'm saying again, because it was said that Mr. Gheba and Mr. Amir Bhatti, who is the Chief Justice, he had given very few detailed judgment, reported judgment. मैं इसलिए इसको थोड़ा सा कहा है 71%. Mr. Justice Muhammad Shafi authored 106 detailed judgment and 42 short judgment out of 148 reported judgment, indicating that his detailed judgment was 72%. Likewise, Mr. Justice Niamatullah Phulpoto authored 134 detailed judgment and 111 short judgments. We all know in फौजदारी केस कैसे शॉर्ट जजमेंट लिखी जाती हैं, किस तरह लायर्स को कहा जाता है विड्रॉ करो, क्या करो, you know everything, we know everything. Out of 245 reported judgment, indicated that his detailed judgment were 55%. This equation also points out that the ignored judges have given more detailed judgment than some of the nominees. Rather, Mr. Justice Irfan Sadat Khan has authored 86% detailed reported judgment, which are highest than the judgment of the nominees. सबसे ज़्यादा है उसकी. But he has been ignored. He is not competent. उसकी कैपेसिटी नहीं है लिखने की. इसलिए even the reported judgment of Mr. Justice Irfan Sadat Khan and Mr. Justice Akil Abbasi are more than the reported judgment authored by Mr. Justice Sayyid Hassan Azhar Rizvi and Mr. Justice Muhammad Shafi Siddiqui of the High Court of Sindh. Now, the data so collected from the computer bench of the Supreme Court indicate that 4.8% judgment authored by Mr. Justice Irfan Sadat Khan were set aside, whereas his 57.6% judgments were upheld. 3.5 judgments authored by Mr. Justice Akil Abbasi were set aside, whereas his 44% judgments were upheld by this court. 5% judgment handed down by Mr. Justice Sayyid Hassan Azhar Rizvi were set aside, whereas his 56 judgments were upheld by this court. 4.9% judgment authored by Mr. Justice Muhammad Shafi Siddiqui were set aside, whereas his 60% judgment were upheld by this court. Likewise, 11.7 judgments authored by Mr. Justice Niamatullah Khan Photo was set aside. सबसे ज़्यादा इसकी जो set aside हुई. Whereas his 48 judgments were upheld by this court. The above data and percentage of set aside judgment authored by Mr. Justice Irfan Sadat Khan and Mr. Justice Akil Ahmed Abbasi are lesser in number than the other nominees, judges of the High Court of the Sindh, which indicate the better competency and command of law of the said two senior judges. The reported judgment of Mr. Shahid Wahid of the, अब लाहौर आउट की बात कर रहा हूँ, वहाँ तो मैं खत्म कर दिया. The reported judgment of Mr. Shahid Wahid of the Lahore High Court are less than the judgment authored by Mr. Justice Shujaat Ali Khan. The detailed reported judgment of Mr. Justice Shahzad Ahmed Khan Gheba, Shahzad Ahmed Khan and Shujaat Ali Khan are higher than the judgment of Mr. Shahid Wahid and almost equal to Mr. Justice Muhammad Amir Bhatti. So this comparative chart annexed with the record also indicate that senior judges are more eligible than the nominees judges. 2.6% judgment authored by Mr. Justice Amir Bhatti were set aside, whereas his 76.5% judgments were upheld by this court. 18.2 judgment authored by Mr. Justice Malik Shehzad Ahmed Khan. Sorry, sir. Ek minute. Bismillah. %% judgment authored by Mr. Amir Bhatti was satisfied, whereas 2.6 were there. 18.2 judgment authored by Mr. Malik Shehzad Ahmed Khan were satisfied, whereas his 60.4 judgments were upheld by this court. 2.3% judgment authored by Mr. Justice Shujaat Ali Khan were satisfied, and whereas his 71% judgment were upheld by this court. On the other hand, 4% judgment were authored by Mr. Justice Shahid Wahid were satisfied by this court, whereas his 77.8% judgment were upheld. So the percentage of satisfied judgment of Mr. Justice Amir Bhatti and Mr. Shujaat Ali Khan are lesser in number than the nominee judge Mr. Shahid Wahid of the Lahore High Court. This data also confirms that the senior most judges and other seniors are equally rather better competent than the nominees. So far Ni'matullah Phulpoto is concerned, I totally agreed with my senior most judge Usmani Saab. I have also gone through the judgments handed down by Mr. Justice Ni'matullah Phulpoto, who has normally authored his judgment on criminal side. 111 judgments were challenged before the court. Out of 9 were pending. Leave was granted in 27 cases, and 13 judgments were satisfied, and his judgment satisfied, whereas 53 cases were dismissed, out of which many of them were dismissed having become infectious. मुझे इसलिए मैं ये कह रहा हूँ, मेरे पास वो डाटा भी है, रिकॉर्ड मेरे पास मौजूद है, मैं कहेंगे मैं एक एक नंबर पढ़ के बताऊंगा, वो लिखा हुआ है कि those has been become infectious for the reason या तो बंदा जेल से छूट गया या वो मर गया. ज़्यादातर उसकी तमाम वो जजमेंट जो हुई हैं, लॉ हुई हैं, या कहें कि उसको डिस्पोज ऑफ किया गया है, वो इस ग्राउंड पे डिस्पोज ऑफ हुई है. ये मेरे पास वो सारा रिकॉर्ड मौजूद है जो मैंने ऑफिस से मंगवाया. A perusal of the judgment indicates that although he is known to be a judge having command on criminal case matters, but rightly as said by Usmani Sahab, but his judgments are average, indicating that his concept toward criminal law is not clear. मैं सिर्फ एक एग्जाम्पल दूंगा. One example is that in all the cases, अभी अब कहें मैं सारे खोल के एक एक लफ्ज में पढ़ के बता देता हूं, मैंने अंडरलाइन किए हुए. In all the cases, he firstly discussed the medical evidence and only observed that the death of the deceased was unnatural, hence it corroborates the ocular account. The Supreme Court has already settled as far back as 1990 and 1991, Usmani Sahab ko pata hoga, that medical evidence cannot be considered as a corroborative piece of evidence, as it neither pinpoints the accused nor names the assailant, and it only gives the detail of the injury, the condition of the dead body, the cause of the death, duration between injury and death, and between death and postmortem, etc., and can only be considered as a supportive evidence, but not as a corroborative piece of evidence. मेरे सामने वज़ीर कानून भी बैठे, फौजदारी करते रहे, और उस्मानी साहब ने भी यही कहा, लेकिन मैं आपको ये एक एग्जाम्पल बताइए. But almost in each judgment, the learned nominee judge has observed the same as a corroborative piece of evidence for conviction. There are many other things. मैं अगर वो आपको पढ़ के सुनाने की कोई बताना शुरू कर दूं, तो आप परेशान हो जाएंगे. When he gave the facts, He gave the ocular account was produced as PW3 and PW4. What PW3 say 1111 سارا کر دیا, what PW4 سے 1111 اس کی پوری کہانی بیان کر دی. پھر اس کے بعد باقی گواہان کا ذکر کر دیا, پھر بحث کی ذکر آ گئی, پھر آگے ان کی آبزرویشن. جب اپنی آبزرویشن آئی تو انہوں نے کہنا, پہلے تو میڈیکل کو انہوں نے کھنگالا, پھر اس کے بعد کہنا شروع کر دیا PW3 appeared as a eye witness and he said 1111. وہ تمام سٹوری جو پچھلے چوتھے صفحے میں وہ کہہ چکے ہیں وہ ساری پھر ریپروڈیوس کی. PW4 سے پھر 1111 وہ ساری پھر ریپروڈیوس کر دی, اور آخر میں کہہ دیا کہ کیونکہ آکولر اکاؤنٹ نے بڑا ٹھیک ٹھاک بیان دے دیا ہے تو دس از سفیشینٹ فار کنوکشن. تو کہاں ہے وہ اپریزل اینڈ ری اپریزل آف ایویڈنس کا جو پرنسپل بنائے گئے دس کورٹ کے, وہ کدھر ہیں؟ مجھے تو کہیں نظر نہیں آئے ان ججمنٹس میں. آن دی ادر ہینڈ اٹ واز سیڈ, جب شہزاد خیبہ صاحب کو کہا گیا کہ اس کو نہیں بنا رہے ہم لوگ, ابھی اس میں جو ریزن دی ہے وہ یہی دیا جی اس کی ایوریج ججمنٹ ہے. کھول کے دیکھ لیجیے, ایک ایک ججمنٹ کو پڑھ کے دیکھیں گے, یو ول سی. یہ میں یہ نہیں کہتا کہ وہ لاہور کے ججز کا یہ ایک بہت ماشاءاللہ اچھی بات ہے کہ وہ ایچ اینڈ ایوری پیس آف ایویڈنس کو ڈسکس کرتے ہیں. ری اپریزل کا ایویڈنس کا یہی تو مطلب ہے. ہم سپریم کورٹ میں تو یہ کہہ سکتے ہیں کہ نو بس ٹھیک ہے, اٹس آلرائٹ, بوتھ دا کورٹس ہیو سین اینڈ وی آر ناٹ گوئنگ ٹو سے. ہمارا تو اور بات ہے, لیکن جب اپریزل کرنا ہے ٹرائل کورٹ نے, ری اپریزل کرنا ہے. ری اپریزل مین دی ہول ری اپریزل, ناٹ اے سمریلی کرنا ہے. تو یہ آلموسٹ ان دی ججمنٹ یہی کچھ کہا ہے انہوں نے جی. ہز ریزننگ اگینسٹ دی سیٹل پرنسپل آف اپریزل اینڈ ری اپریزل آف دی ایویڈنس. What is even more worrying is that he adamantly refuses to read or follow our 30-year-old Supreme Court precedents. Thus contravenes Article 189 of the Constitution. But he has been nominated. Okay. The information so far I have gathered from different corners of Sindh is that his integrity is also questionable. Whereas the reason for his appointment given in the letter dated 20th July 2022 is silent regarding his integrity. Same is the position in regard of Mr. Justice Muhammad Shafi Siddiqui. The information so gathered from the liars in the relevant quarters from Sindh is also found questionable integrity, and the reason for the appointment are also silent regarding his good integrity. The information also reveals that both are accessible. انہوں نے وہ بھی بتایا کہ وہ ایکسیسیبل کن کے ذمے ہیں, کن کے انڈر ہے, لیکن میں وہ وہاں ذکر نہیں کرنا چاہتا. But they are accessible according to the bar and the people جن سے میں نے کو کنسیڈر کیا. بیکاز ہمیں تو ایک انہوں نے تو کہہ دیا کہ یہ ہیں, یہ بندے ٹھیک ہیں. اب ہمارے پاس تو اور کوئی سورسز نہیں ہیں, ہم نے تو وہیں سے جا کے پتہ کرنا ہے سندھ سے, اور سندھ میں جو اکا دکا جو ہمارے جاننے والے ہیں انہیں سے پوچھا جا سکتا ہے جو تھے. The integrity along with seniority is the prime consideration for appointment as judge of the Supreme Court. But reasoning given the head of the each nominee judge is silent regarding their integrity. It is also a circumstance that nobody has raised his finger toward the integrity of Mr. Justice Irfan Sadat and Khan and Akil Ahmed Abbasi. یہاں بھی آپ لوگوں نے جن لوگوں نے کہا ہے انہوں نے کم از کم ان کی انٹیگریٹی کے بارے میں کسی نے کوئی بات نہیں کی. So far temperament of Mr. Justice Akil Ahmed Abbasi is concerned, the same is not supported from any corner of the legal fraternity, and this fact by itself is not sufficient to debar such a nice judge who work appreciably and being respected in legal fraternity due to his integrity and competency. سر ٹیمپرامنٹ, خالی ٹیمپرامنٹ کی وجہ سے کسی جج کو ڈیبار کر دینا, تو یہ تو میں سمجھتا ہوں اگر ہم اپنا یہاں سپریم کورٹ میں اگر ہم دیکھیں تو کئی دفعہ ہمارے ججز ٹیمپرامنٹ لوز کر جاتے ہیں وکلاء کی نالائکیوں کے اوپر, وکلاء کی کسی بات کے اوپر کر جاتے ہیں. لیکن اس وجہ سے اس کو نکال دیں, اس کو نومینیٹ نہ کریں, صرف اس وجہ سے. ادروائز ہی ایوری تھنگ واز ایکول. وہ کمپیٹنٹ بھی ہے, وہ سینئر بھی ہے, سب کچھ ہے, لیکن نہیں. سر میں 2 باتوں کو جواب دے دوں, پھر میں آخر میں وہ بتاؤں گا کہ میں کن کو کر رہا ہوں کن کو نہیں کر رہا. دیکھیے سر, آپ نے کہا کہ وہ کیسے رشید والا بات میں نے پہلے ہی کہہ دی. آپ نے اس کا کمپیریٹیو ڈاٹا ہمیں نہیں دیا کہ ہم اس سے کسی طریقے سے وہ کر سکیں. امیر بھٹی کے بارے میں کہتے ہیں ہی از اے گڈ جج, اور میرے بھائی نے یہ کہا کہ ہمیں ہارڈ کور سول کا بندہ چاہیے. امیر بھٹی ورک ان ملتان ڈسٹرکٹ جوڈیشری ڈسٹرکٹ کورٹس فار ڈیکیڈز. اس کا ہارڈ کور کا اتنا تجربہ ہے سول سائڈ پہ, ریونیو سائڈ پہ, ہر سائڈ پہ, کہ could be a good addition in this institution for that purpose. اور کرمنل کے لیے پھل پوٹوں کو لانے کی ضرورت بجائے آپ یہ دیکھیں کہ یہاں کرمنل کے کیسز کتنے تھوڑے سے ہی ہیں, اتنے زیادہ نہیں ہیں. یہاں سول کیسز جو ہیں وہ ملٹیپل تھاؤزینڈ اینڈ تھاؤزینڈ میں ہیں. اصل کیسز تو وہ ہیں جن کو ختم کرنا ہے, جن کے لیے میکسیمم ججز یہاں پہ سول کے پہلے ہی اویلیبل ہیں. فوجداری کے تو اکا دکا ہے بقول اجازل احسن صاحب کے. تو اس لیے میں یہ سمجھتا ہوں کہ ہی از دی موسٹ کمپیٹنٹ اینڈ سوٹیبل پرسن. ناؤ آئی کنکلوڈ کرتا ہوں جی. آئی ود آل ریزرویشن, میری ریزرویشن ہمیشہ یہ رہی ہے جی سینئرٹی کی. یہ سینئرٹی پرنسپل کو جب بھی ہم وائلیٹ کرتے ہیں اس ملک کے لیے کچھ اچھا نہیں ہوتا. I with all above reservation is not inclined to approve the proposal for appointment of Mr. Justice Sayyid Hassan Azhar Rizvi, Muhammad Shafi Siddiqui, Niamatullah Phulpoto, falling at serial number 4, 6 and 7 of the seniority list respectively in the High Court of the Sindh, and Mr. Justice Shahid Waheed falling at serial number 4 of the seniority list in the Lahore High Court. As we have been provided comparative record, and I say that from the above comparative discussion, I am confident that in view of the seniority principle, integrity and competency, Mr. Justice Muhammad Amir Bhatti is suitable for appointment as Judge of the Supreme Court on vacant seat. Likewise, on the principle of seniority, Mr. Justice Ahmed Ali Sheikh, keeping in view his vast experience as the Chief Justice of the High Court of Sindh and his earlier consideration for appointment as an ad hoc Judge of the Supreme Court, he is also suitable for his elevation as a Judge of the Supreme Court of Pakistan. If he is proceeded under Article 206, then of course Mr. Justice Irfan Sadat Khan and Aqil Ahmed Abbasi are the most suitable judges to be appointed as a judge in Supreme Court of Pakistan, and I approve their name as such. So far, Mr. Justice Qazi Rashid Khan is concerned, although he is a senior most judge of this Peshawar High Court, but surprisingly, no comparative data qua other two judges has been provided so that a comparison could be made regarding their competency, integrity, besides seniority. So in my humble view, his matter may be deferred. Thank you very much, sir. Chairman Sahab. میں نے کچھ ٹائم زیادہ لے لیا. آئی ایم سوری.
Thank you very much, Justice Tariq Masood Saab. Your analysis is very illuminating, and all that you have said needs to be dealt with during our discussion and will be answered. May I now request Justice Qazi Faez Saab to inform us about his thoughts.
Thank you very much. I had informed you of my thoughts by a note dated 25th July 2022, and I would request that that note be made part of the minutes. Another thing which I want to add is that some novelty, new method of doing things has evolved, and I have zero confidence in the minutes that are recorded. Previously, minutes which were recorded were then sent, were put up in the next meeting or circulated for confirmation. This has arbitrarily been put a stop to, which I have raised in writing a number of times. So the minutes were wrongly recorded, and give me the recording of them which will confirm this. This was withheld from me. The senior most judge of the Supreme Court, a member of the Judicial Commission of Pakistan. So the accuracy of recording of minutes, why this suppression of the truth? I would go one step further. Why are we keeping the public out? Article 19A of the Constitution has been enacted. It gives right of information to everyone. Why proceed behind closed doors? My experience has been, whenever you proceed behind closed doors, it is because one does not want uncomfortable truths to emerge and to suppress them. So I would request that the minutes, it be resumed the procedure before the minutes were sent for confirmation, and not at the end of the day 7 people, 9 people, 13 people decide something, and one gentleman who I have the highest respect for may not have paid close attention or may have misunderstood something and record something, and that becomes the minutes of the meeting. Sir, this practice is not prevalent in limited companies, in any other meeting procedure, and was always the practice of this court. Let us not jettison the good things that we used to abide by. Please do not arbitrarily send a note that this is the minutes of the meeting. So I would request, my eyes were opened by the data provided by Sardar Saab. Now, if we had all been involved in this process from the inception, it would have come to this, to expose. I'm sure the Chief Justice was misled, to expose. Will any heads roll? If Sardar Saab did not take it upon himself to analyze, we took it as the gospel truth. But I don't know if I can speak for everyone, I for one want to acknowledge him. I had written for postponement, my request was not conceded to. Sir, I know the Chief Justice is a very busy man, and so it must have slipped his mind to politely respond to me, which he did not do. But I am so grateful that he is giving me an opportunity not to holiday too much and give my 2 bits in this meeting. I have already expressed my views on a number of issues which have not been responded to, and now, since a number of very honorable members, and undoubtedly the chairman too, will express their views, I will request that I speak last, also because, for the added reason that the 2,500 or so documents that I have never received. So I will be enlightened, and I would like to express my views at the end. Thank you very much.
I think Justice Qazi Faez Saab, you should make your statement now, because I will be doing the concluding remarks.
Sir, with the greatest of respect, I have not come here to make a statement. I have come here to learn from you, from Sarmat Saab, from Shah Saab, from the Law Minister, from the Attorney General. I have come to learn. I may change my view after learning. I have expressed my views. If you had responded to some of my views, I would have certainly expressed my views. I would like to now, I don't think you can force me to speak when you choose to. I'm deferring to hear from them. Maybe I get persuaded, maybe I agree with you, and I said, wonderful, let's do what you're saying. So why are you depriving me of this opportunity? All I'm saying is I want to hear you all and express your views. And I've expressed good reason that I don't have the benefit of the 2,500 documents that you have prepared, put together, and all the other members have. So is it unfair?
Okay, then you can speak before I speak, so that I can conclude the matter then.
I would actually like to hear you also respond to some of the very serious points raised by Sardar Saab, and if you can put them to rest, it will change my opinion. So, sir, your golden words are eagerly awaited, sir. Thank you.
May I now request the pehle Attorney General bolte aap bolenge. May I now request the Law Minister to kindly express his views.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and first of all, I congratulate Mr. Sajjad Ali Shah joining the first meeting. Many prayers for Attorney General Akhtar Osaf for a swift and quick recovery, and look forward to see him here appearing before the benches, having meetings with us, and bringing us to the dinners as he always does. Sir, I've been enlightened by the material sent to me by the Commission, as well as the views expressed by the honorable members of the Commission. Before I comment upon the nominations, I would like to place on record my views regarding the principle of seniority and fitness for elevation of the candidates. As all of us know that this being the apex court of the country, and there is no other court who can actually sit over the Supreme Court for reversing or changing or setting aside the orders and correcting the wrongs, if any, committed by the court. Sir, we expect that we should always go for best of the best. So while saying so, I would suggest that we have to actually formulate a criteria and then to codify it in order to streamline the rules and the criteria, that at what juncture we should bypass or ignore the seniority principle, and what should be the valid reasons for ignoring the same. Mr. Chairman, unless and until we actually with open hearts we sit together and we frame these rules, my belief is that we would not be able to bring transparency to these proceedings. And in that eventuality, we will be losing the trust of the stakeholders and the public at large. Sir, I have seen in the past years, the bar bodies, the bar councils and bar associations are time and again urging that there has to be codified formula for the functioning and the criteria, functioning of the commission and the criteria for the elevations, be that it may the high courts and more particularly, sir, the Supreme Court of Pakistan. I am impressed the way the Honorable Chairman tried to bring everything on record and give us an opportunity to analyze the material and then to decide. But as Justice Sardar Tariq Masood pointed out, sir, when we look into these things, many confusions and many questions arise in our minds. When I gone through the material and the judgments and the data provided by the Judicial Commission of Pakistan to me. And sir, I'm grateful that this time I received the material well before the convening of meeting, and I also appreciate and grateful for the decision taken by the Commission, and more particularly by the chairman, that at least 7 days notice should be given to convene a meeting for appointment of honorable. Sir, it's a very sacred and noble duty, and we have to put all efforts to ensure that most suitable, competent and spotless candidates should be considered and then appointed for these high offices. Sir, coming to I would not take much time. Coming to the candidates and their eligibility, starting from the first nominee, Mr. Qazi Rashid, the Honorable Chief Justice of Peshawar High Court. Sir, I agree with the opinion expressed by Sardar Tariq Masood. Sir, it would have been in fitness of things, and it would have been extremely helpful for all of us if rest of the 2 judges or 3 judges, like the judge, the senior puisne judge, and the judge at number 2 in the number 3 in the seniority, their credentials and their judgment should also be placed, since we are actually bypassing the principle of seniority in Punjab and in Sindh. Speaking for myself, sir, I know both the gentlemen, Justice Qazi Rashid and Mr. Justice Ruhul Amin Chamkini, who is the senior puisne judge there. Incidentally, both were honorable members, Pakistan Bar Council in 2010-15 tenure when I was first elected for that office. And I had an honor and opportunity to work with both of them. So as a lawyer, I feel that they were dignified persons. But when I compare their working in the council, their input in the issues coming to the legal education committees and the disciplinary proceedings and even the threadbare discussions on the national and legal issues, I found much or better clarity of thoughts in Mr. Ruhul Amin as he then was, comparing to Justice Qazi Rashid. I have never appeared before both of them, but when I spoke to my colleagues at Peshawar High Court, in their assessment, first of all, there is one interesting factor may I bring before this August forum, that Mr. Qazi Rashid and Mr. Ruhul Amin were elevated in the same batch, I believe, or if there was any difference of batch. Right now, their seniority is at number 1 and 2, but their age of the date of retirement is only with 24 hours difference. So if one gentleman would be retiring on 21st of March 2022, the other honorable judge, the puisne judge, would retire the next day. So it's quite interesting. Even the honorable judge at number 3 would also retire in the same week. So for all the more reasons, I would, sir, suggest that we should examine the credentials of all 3 gentlemen, because they enjoy almost same kind of seniority. The experience on the bench and experience of life is almost one and the same. So it would be extremely helpful for us if we get material credentials, their judgments, their comparative work for consideration for all 3 gentlemen, and till that time we defer the appointment from Peshawar High Court of Justice Qazi Rashid. Now, sir, coming to Sindh, with all respect and humility, unfortunately, I've never worked at, or even I have never appeared before a bench at Sindh High Court. शायद वहाँ के लोगों को इतनी अच्छी वहाँ पे लीगल असिस्टेंस मिलती है कि वो बहुत कम बाहर निकलते हैं जी. और इट्स अ ब्यूटीफुल कोर्ट प्रेमिसेस, बहुत काबिल और अच्छे जजेस भी वहाँ से आए, लेकिन सर मेरे लिए ये तशनगी रह गई. So I would confine myself only to the material and its analysis اور جو وہ کمپیریزن کیا جا سکتا ہے. اینڈ فار ریسٹ آف تھنگس کہ ان کی کوئی انٹیگریٹی یا جو ان کی ریپوٹیشن ہے بار میں اور ان کی ذات کے بارے میں اگر کوئی بات ہے سر, اس کے لیے I would prefer to rely upon the opinion of Justice Mr. اختر حسین. بار کو ریپرزینٹ کرتے ہیں سر. میں نے یہ جسارت کیوں کی ہے, جو آنریبل ججز کی اوپینین سر انٹیگریٹی اور جو کنڈکٹ کے بارے میں یا ڈیمینر کے بارے میں بہت اچھی ہو سکتی ہے, لیکن سر مائی پرسنل انڈرسٹینڈنگ از اسپینڈنگ 28 years ایٹ دا بار, سر جو بار ممبرز آر آئیز اینڈ ایئرز آف دس پروفیشن. کیونکہ سر ہم لوگ ایک سے دوسری, دوسری سے تیسری, تیسری سے چوتھی کورٹ میں جاتے ہیں, ہر بندے کو سر کام کرتے ہوئے دیکھتے ہیں, ان کی جو کمپیٹنس کا لیول ہے, ان کی جو کیسز کا ڈسپوزل ہے, ان کے لکھنے کا انداز ہے, ان کا آرڈر ڈکٹیٹ کرنے کا طریقہ, ان کا کورٹ میں ڈیمینر, لائرز کے ساتھ کنڈکٹ, لٹیگنٹس کے ساتھ کنڈکٹ, سینئر پارٹنرز یا جونیئر پارٹنر ان دا ڈویژن بینچ یا لارجر بینچز میں ان کا جو ساری چیزیں سر وہ ساری ہم لوگ دیکھتے ہیں, اور میرے خیال میں سر وہ قدرے بہتر اسیسمنٹ ہوتی ہے. تو سر اس پارٹ کے لیے میں رائے کروں گا سر اختر حسین صاحب سے کہ وہ ہمیشہ بڑا باریک تجزیہ دیتے ہیں, اینڈ مور اسپیشلی ہی بلانگس ٹو سیم سٹی اور ہی ہیز بین ورکنگ سندھ ہائی کورٹ فار آلموسٹ اختر صاحب 50 years. گولڈن جوبلی ہو گئی کیا جی؟ Now sir, as far as the nominations are concerned, I agree to great extent that when we sir the expectancy principle یا ایک خواہش ہوتی ہے آپ کی کہ میں الٹیمیٹلی اپنا کیریئر ایپکس کورٹ میں آ کے وہ کلمینیٹ ہو, تو سر سینئرز کو اگنور کرنے کے لیے میرے خیال میں سر بہت ویلڈ اور ساؤنڈ ریزنز ہمیں درکار ہونی چاہیے. اور میں نے شاید اسی لیے سر شروع میں کہا تھا کہ گورنمنٹ بھی یہ سمجھتی ہے, اینڈ آئی ہیو آلسو ڈسکس دس ایشو ود مائی کولیگز ان دا کیبنٹ جو تھوڑا سا لیگل جن میں انٹرسٹ ہے, اینڈ آلسو ود دی آنریبل پرائم منسٹر. وہ بھی سمجھتے ہیں کہ سر بار باڈیز کی یہ جو ڈیمانڈ ہے, اور کمشن میں بھی بہت دفعہ سر یہ بات ہوئی ایون بائی دی آنریبل ججز دیٹ وی شوڈ ڈیوائز اے کوڈیفائڈ کرائٹیریا فار دیٹ میٹر. کہ ایک تو سر کمیشن کی جو فنکشننگ ہے وہ بہت آسان ہو جائے گی, دوسرا سر یہ جو پک اینڈ چوز کی کبھی بھی یہ بات نہیں آ سکے گی اس صورت میں جہاں پہ سر سینیورٹی جو ہے وہ ڈیمیج کرتی ہو کمپیٹنس کے حوالے سے, اور کھڑی یا خدا نخواستہ کوئی انٹیگریٹی کا ایشو آتا ہو, تو اس صورت میں بالکل ہمیں نیچے جانا چاہیے. کیونکہ جیسے میں نے شروع میں کہا یہ آخری عدالت ہے اور اس میں ہمیں بیسٹ آف دا بیسٹ کے لیے آنا چاہیے. لیکن سر اگر سینئر لوگوں میں ایکولی گڈ یا تھوڑے سے فرق کے ساتھ لوگ بیٹھے ہوں, سر انہیں اگنور کرنا شاید ان کے ساتھ زیادتی ہو جائے. تو اس حوالے سے جیسے یہ انالیسز کر رہے تھے جسٹس طارق مسعود صاحب, میں نے بھی سر دیکھ رہا تھا, تو اگر اس کو ریویو کیا جا سکے اس تناظر میں کہ ان نامینیشنز کو جو سندھ سے آئی ہیں, اسپیشلی جو جسٹس حسن رضوی صاحب اینڈ جسٹس شفیع صدیقی صاحب کی, سر ان کو ایٹ پار دیکھ لیا جائے جو ان کے سینئر ججز ہیں ان کے ساتھ. اب ایک لمحے کے لیے یہیں پہ روکتے ہوئے سر گوئنگ ڈاؤن ٹو جسٹس پھلپوٹو, sir, I am also a criminal side practitioner for many years, and I have been appearing mostly in the criminal matters. I have gone through the judgments. There are serious defects, sir, and deviation from the standard principles of criminal law. And more so, جو بہت زیادہ ڈپینڈنس ہے سر ریکارڈ کے اوپر, انسٹیڈ آف اپلائنگ مائنڈ اینڈ گیونگ ریزنز فار ڈیسیژن, which is actually the job of a judge, and a good judge always, sir, you don't need to, you are sitting in a court of appeal, the record is also part of the case, وہ آپ کے سامنے ہے, وہ سارا ریپروڈیوس کرے ضرور جو جہاں پہ بہت ضروری ہے آپ کی ریزن کو سپورٹ کرنے کے لیے. لیکن I have seen that he has been writing long judgments, relying upon the records, and then abruptly writing few lines that the ocular account fully supports, is not of the quality which should be believed by. Why should not be believed? One has to give reasons to satisfy the other side. تو ان کی حد تک سر میں ویسے بھی وہاں سے جو دوستوں سے بات ہو رہی تھی کل, کوئی انسیڈنٹ سمجھے, that he is person of a weak personality جی معذرت کے ساتھ میں اس پہ بالکل فرم نہیں ہوں لیکن ہیر سے ضرور ہے کہ ان کے بہت اسٹرانگ نہیں ہیں ڈیسیجن میکنگ میں بھی اور ایون جو ان کی سوشل ریلیشننگ ہے اس میں بھی انہیں بہت کنفیوز نظر آتے ہیں. سر وی نیڈ ویری کلیئرٹی آف تھاٹ اور اسٹرانگ نروڈ پیپل ان دی ایپیکس کورٹ. تو فلپوٹو صاحب کی حد تک تو سر میں سمجھتا ہوں کہ بہتر ہو سر اگر یہ نامینیشن جو ہے وہ ڈس اپروو کی جائے تاکہ کورٹ میں جو بہتر سٹاف ہے سر آپ کے پاس وہ آئے اور جو بیسٹ اویلیبل لوگ ہیں بیسٹ آف دا بیسٹ کو ہم لے کے آئیں. سر کمنگ ٹو لاہور, since I practiced most of the time or I would say the entire career at Lahore High Court, I know the gentleman who has been nominated. We have been appearing together. We have been working together in many of the cases. Is a thorough gentleman, a very reasonable human being, finest human being rather I would say. He was a good lawyer and a good judge, though I have not frequently been appearing before him because he most of the time deals with civil or constitutional matters or the other miscellaneous work broadly from the civil or constitutional side. But sir, I have been frequently appearing before the two honorable judges, or rather three honorable judges senior to him, whose data has also been shared and whose judgments have also been shared with them. Sir, speaking for myself, if I have given the chance to give one recommendation or nomination before this August forum, I would suggest that the Supreme Court right now needs judges or at least a judge who has vast experience on the criminal side. As Justice Ijazul rightly said, that there are, I would simply add one more person. He is right now naming two honorable judges from Lahore High Court. One is luckily sitting with us, and the another gentleman, Justice Naqvi. They have been practicing on the criminal side. They have been dealing massively, I would say, with the criminal matters. And they turned out to be good judges at the High Court level and mashallah now at the Supreme Court. Sir, keeping in view the number of pending cases and the, I would say, the comparatively less criminal side judges in the Supreme Court, I would very respectfully submit that this nomination may please be reconsidered and Mr. Justice Shehzad Ahmed Khan may be considered to be elevated as judge of Supreme Court. Sir, on the appellate side, I have been appearing before him for good 7-8 years, and with all certainty I can say that if not more, I have conducted at least 90 to 100 death sentence and life imprisonment appeals before him. I have always found him to be decent and reasonable. He is open to listening. He changes his mind if you convince him and writes reasonably good judgments. Well, sir, it always varies from person to person, and with respect and reverence, sir, the writing skills or the qualities are God-gifted sometimes. Some of us have extraordinarily good expression. کئی ہم لوگ سر لیک کرتے ہیں میرے جیسے جو لکھنے میں بولنے میں کئی دفعہ تھوڑے گھبراتے ہیں, لیکن سر جو ریزننگ ہے جج کی اور جو کلیئرٹی ہے اور اس کے ساتھ اس کی انٹیگریٹی وہ ٹھیک ہونی چاہیے. چیف جسٹس صاحب کے بارے میں بھی سر یہی بات ہے جی, لیکن میرا کیونکہ اس حد تک ان سے بہت ریگولر اپیرنس نہیں رہی ہے, وہ کانسٹیٹیوشنل اور سول سائڈ کرتے ہیں, لیکن سول سائڈ میں سر جو کولیگز ہیں لاہور ہائی کورٹ میں ان کے کام کی حد تک ہمیشہ انہوں نے کہا ہے کہ ان کا کام ٹھیک ہوتا ہے. جیسے بات یہاں پہ ہوئی تھی کہ جی کرمنل سائڈ پہ ہمیں ایک ایڈیشن چاہیے, تو میرا سر یہ رائے ہوگی کہ ہم نمبر 9 پہ جانے کی بجائے سندھ ہائی کورٹ میں جسٹس فلپوٹو کی طرف اٹ وڈ بی ان فٹنس آف تھنگز اگر ہم جسٹس شہزاد احمد خان کو لاہور سے کنسیڈر کریں, ہیونگ واسٹ ایکسپیرینس آن دا کرمنل سائڈ اینڈ دیر از نتھنگ ایڈورس اگینسٹ ہم ایز فار ایز ہز انٹیگریٹی, ہز ریپوٹیشن, ہز ڈیمینر, ہز کنڈکٹ ود لائرز, سر دیٹ از کنسرنڈ. So these are my recommendations, ji. Now, sir, coming to another important point, sir, I would also like if the Honorable Chair allow me. Sir, this process also involves the recommendations or confirmation by the parliamentary committee, which is a constitutional committee consisting of members of parliament from the Treasury and opposition benches. Sir, I have been a member of that committee as well. I have been specifically requested by my fellow colleagues to bring this thing on record, since the commission is also sitting. And I'll also seek your Honor's time as a Chief Justice. I'll seek your half an hour to submit before you that the feeling of the members of the parliamentary committee is that their recommendations have not been honored whenever they reversed the decision of the Judicial Commission, and almost every time there had been judicial verdict on the same, and 95% decisions have been overturned by the courts. Sir, it's a constitutional body. The Constitution also very clearly states that the doctrine of trichotomy of powers to be adhered to and to be followed and to be respected, sir. So with great honor, I think this is a forum I should bring on record that Munir Bhatti case needs to be revisited, sir, with great reverence and respect. اور اس کے لیے سر ضرور سوچیے کہ کسی ٹائم پہ سر اداروں کی تکریم اور توقیر رہے گی تو سر نظام اچھے چلیں گے. ان کا شروع سے سر ایگزیکٹو کا رول ہے. ہم جب ینگ لائرز آئے تھے تب یہ چیزیں نہیں تھیں. گورنر چیف جسٹس کنسرنڈ ہائی کورٹ سے کنسلٹ کرتے تھے, نام بھیجتے تھے, وہاں سے انیشیٹ ہوتے تھے, اور چیف جسٹس جو تھے پاکستان ان کی کنسلٹیشن پرائم منسٹر سے ہوتی تھی, پریزیڈنٹ صاحب سر اپوائنٹ کر دیتے تھے. اس کو ہم نے ریپلیس کیا, اسٹیک ہولڈرز کو بٹھایا سر, ایگزیکٹو کے ساتھ ہم نے گورنمنٹ کے ساتھ ساتھ اپوزیشن کو رول دیا. سر جب ٹریجری اور اپوزیشن دونوں مل کے یہ سمجھتے ہیں 2/3 میجورٹی سے کہ یہ نامینیشنز میں یہ چیز ہے, یہ جھول ہے, سر ان کا یہ ایک جو کانسٹیٹیوشنل فنکشن ہے جو انہوں نے گڈ فیتھ میں ایکسرسائز کیا, unless until there is clear evidence کہ کوئی انفارچونیٹلی کوئی بیڈ فیتھ یا میلافیڈی تھی. سر اس وجہ سے ان کو اوورٹرن کرنے سے پہلے سر بہت دفعہ سوچنا چاہیے. پیچھے 2 دفعہ ہوا ہے سر, اس سے پہلے بھی ہوتا رہا سر. تو منیر بھٹی کیس کو ریوزٹ کرنے کے لیے اگر یہ کمیشن میں آئے کسی ٹائم پہ اور کنسیڈر کیا جائے کسی اپروپریٹ کیس میں, شاید ایک آدھ کیس پینڈنگ بھی ہو, میں اس سے زیادہ بات نہیں کرتا. تو میں سر بائی سمنگ اپ with respect, I would state that right now, sir, in view of the analysis made by Mr. Justice Sardar Tariq Masood after listening to the honorable judges, I don't support, sir, these nominations for the time being, sir. I would request that the rules may kindly be framed determining the principle of seniority and the functioning of the Judicial Commission of Pakistan. مجھے انگزائٹی کا سر اندازہ ہے کہ کورٹ کی 5 سیٹس خالی ہیں جو شاید پہلے کبھی نہیں ہوئی, لیکن سر ان میں سے 4 ابھی اویلیبل ہیں. سردار صاحب کی یہ بات بھی سر درست ہے کہ ہمیں جو ڈیمڈ ہے ابھی آنی ہے نامینیشن, جو سیٹ خالی ویکینسی آنی ہے سر, اس کے بارے میں بھی ابھی نہیں کرنا چاہیے سر. یہ پریسیڈنٹس کہیں شروع نہ ہو جائیں اور بہت آگے نہ چلی جائیں. اور دوسرا سر اس میں یہ ہوتا ہے کہ کئی دفعہ جب ہم ایسے میں جب 5 یا 4 نامینیشنز میں, تو یہی کہوں گا کہ سر 5 ہی ہو جانی ہے الٹیمیٹلی کرنی ہو, تو سر اس میں ہمیں اور زیادہ احتیاط برتنی چاہیے. اور پھر جب اوور آل پول ہے سر اس کو بھی بڑا کریں. میں ریسپیکٹفلی آئی وڈ سے کہ جسٹس اطہر من اللہ از آلسو اے ویری آنریبل جج, ایکسپیرینسڈ ہیں, آئی ہیو بین اپیئرنگ بیفور ہم, ہم ان کی ججمنٹس پڑھتے ہیں. اسلام آباد ہائی کورٹ سے پہلے بھی سر آئے تھے یہاں پہ چیف جسٹس, جو جسٹس اقبال حمود الرحمان صاحب, انہیں سر ضرور کنسیڈر کریں. ہی وڈ بی اے گڈ ایڈیشن ٹو سپریم کورٹ آف پاکستان. اور کورٹ سر اس سے جو دوسرا جو لوگوں میں یہ پرسیپشن ہے کہ سینئر موسٹ ججز جو ہیں اگر ان میں کوئی اس طرح کے نیگیٹو فیکٹرز نہیں ہیں, وہ نہیں سر آ رہا ہے کورٹ سپریم کورٹ میں, اور وہ بیلنس جو ہے سینیورٹی کے حوالے سے یا فٹنس کے حوالے سے اس پہ باتیں ہوتی ہیں سر. یہ زیادہ ٹرانسپیرنٹ چیزیں ہو جائیں گی. اسی طرح سر جب آپ نامینیشنز کنسیڈر کرنے لگیں تو ضرور کنسیڈر کریں جو پشاور کے باقی 2 جج صاحبان ہیں ان کو پیرٹی میں دیکھیں, کمیشن اس کو تاکہ اپنی ہم رائے دے سکیں. اور ان گزارشات کے ساتھ سر میں رائٹ ناؤ سر آئی ڈونٹ سپورٹ دی نامینیشنز. بہت شکریہ سر.
May I request the worthy Attorney General to kindly express his views? Akhtar Sahab, we can't hear you.
انمیوٹ کر لیں سر, انمیوٹ کر لیجئے گا. یو آر میوٹ پہ ہیں آپ.
Assalamu alaikum ji, I'm not computer savvy nor do I know much about these things. Nevertheless, I'm here because I feel it's the national duty جو اس فورم کو دی گئی ہے. سجاد علی شاہ صاحب یہاں پہ پہلی دفعہ تشریف فرما ہے. ویلکم سا. اللہ تعالیٰ آپ کو سب کو صحت میں رکھے. آپ کے پیغامات مجھے ملتے رہے ہیں. آپ کا بہت مشکور ہوں کہ آپ میرے بارے میں میری صحت کے بارے میں تشویش کا اظہار کیا اور آپ کی دعائیں میں ساتھ ہیں. بہت شکریہ. جیسے میں نے پہلے عرض کیا, یہ ایک بہت ہی نیشنل امپورٹنس کی بات ہے اور اس کے اندر ایک بہت بھاری ذمہ داری ہے ہم سب کے اوپر. نامینیشن چاہے وہ ہائی کورٹ کے ججز کی ہو, چاہے وہ سپریم کورٹ کے ججز کی ہو, اس ملک کی آنے والی تاریخ کے اوپر بہت بڑا جو ہے وہ اثر رکھتی ہے, کیونکہ انٹرپریٹیشن آف دی لا اور کانسٹیٹیوشن جو ہے وہ ان کورٹس کا, خاص طور پہ ایپکس کورٹ کا ایک بہت بھاری کام ہے. میں نے بغور مجھے انفارچونیٹلی چونکہ ڈاکومنٹس میں دیکھ نہیں سکا اور مجھ تک لو ڈاؤن بھی نہیں پہنچ سکا, تو میں قاصر ہوں ان چیزوں کے اوپر کامنٹ کرنے پہ جو میں نے دیکھی نہیں. یہاں پہ بات ہوئی ٹرانسپیرنسی کی, اور ہمیشہ ہوتی ہے. میں ٹرانسپیرنسی تو بالکل دیٹ از گیون سر. میں اس سے زیادہ ایک چیز کے اوپر ایمفسائز کرنا چاہوں گا, وہ ہے انفارمڈ ڈیسیژن. اور انفارمڈ ڈیسیژن کے لیے ازحد ضروری ہے کہ ہمارے پاس تمام تر ڈیٹا ہو. اور جو ڈیٹا پرووائڈ کیا گیا مجھے ایک خوشی بھی ہے اور میں کمپلیمنٹ کروں گا سردار صاحب کو کہ انہوں نے اتنی عرق ریزی کے ساتھ اس کے اوپر کام کیا. اب جب ہم اس دونوں ڈیٹاز کو جو ہمارے پاس موجود ہیں اور جو آپ نے نکالا, میں اس سے جو ہے میرے ذہن میں یہ ایک ابہام سا ہے کہ کس طریقے سے اس سارے معاملے کو آپ جج کریں گے جب آپ کوئی لٹمس ٹیسٹ جو ہے وہی ابھی ہمارا نہیں بنا ہوا اور ہم شاید ایک ہی سب طرف دیکھ رہے ہیں اور دوسری طرف نہیں دیکھ رہے, اور ہم صرف دیکھ رہے ہیں کہ ان کے فیصلے ہم نے جیسے پڑھے ہیں ان سے ہم کیا اخذ کر سکتے ہیں. تو شاید جہاں پہ ہم بات کرتے ہیں سینیورٹی کی, جہاں پہ ہم بات کرتے ہیں کمپٹنس کی, جہاں ہم بات کرتے ہیں انٹیگریٹی کی, ابلٹی کی اور ٹیمپرمنٹ کی, تو شاید ہمیں یہ بھی کنسیڈر نہیں کرنا چاہیے کہ ان ججز کی جن کی ہم ایلیگیشن کی بات کر رہے ہیں ان کے متعلق ایپلیٹ کورٹ نے, جب وہ سپریم کورٹ نے ان کے متعلق کیا کہا ہے, ان کو کتنا انہوں نے سراہا ہے یا کتنا ان کو اوور ٹرن کیا ہے, کیا ان کے اندر کوئی ان کے متعلق کامنٹس ہیں. تو شاید یہ ایک پہلو ہے جو ہمیں رولز کے اندر ضرور لکھنا چاہیے. یہ میری سوچ ہے. اور جب ہم دیکھتے ہیں جو ڈیٹا, اب میرے پاس تو کچھ موجود نہیں ہے کہ میں اس کو دیکھ سکوں, اور مجھے کوئی ضرورت نہیں ہے کہ اس کو ویریفائی کروں. جو سردار صاحب نے کہا ہے, جو انہوں نے کہا وہ بالکل درست, جس طرح آپ کے وہاں پہ ہیں وہ بھی ہیں, لیکن ہمارے پاس کوئی اس کو کمپیئر کرنے کے لیے نہ وقت ملا, نہ ہم نے اس کو اس طریقے سے دیکھا ہے. دوسری بات, اور میں سمجھتا ہوں کہ رولز کے اندر یہ چیز ہو, دوسری بات بہت ضروری یہ ہے وہ یہ ہے کہ ہم جو ایگزسٹنگ ویکنسیز ہیں اس کے متعلق اپنے آپ کو کنفائن کریں اور اینٹیسپیٹری ویکنسی کے لیے اس ویکنسی جب when it occurs, let's cross the bridge when we get there, sir. This is what my thought process is, sir. جہاں تک بات جو ان کی ٹیمپرمنٹ اور یہ ساری چیزیں ہیں اس میں کالیگس اپنی جگہ پہ ہیں، لیکن بار کا جو امپریشن ہے اور بار کی انپٹ ہے وہ اصل ضروری ہے. شاید اسی لیے آئین میں بھی ایک کردار دیا گیا ہے ریپرزینٹیٹیوز آف دی بار کو. اگر آپ اجازت دیں تو میں تھوڑا سا پانی پی لوں. جہاں تک ریکمینڈیشنز کی بات ہے، وہ ریکمینڈیشنز جو ہے وہ تو تابع ہوں گی جب ہمارے پاس ایک رولز کے ایک جس کو میں کہوں گا ایک فرما کہہ لیجئے یا ایک کہہ لیجئے باکسز ہوں جن کو ہم ٹک کریں. اور اس میں شاید یہ مسنگ ہے ابھی تک کہ سپریم کورٹ نے ان آنریبل ججز کے متعلق ان کی ججمنٹس کے متعلق کیا کہا. میں جہاں تک عثمانی صاحب نے اپنی رائے دی ہے وہ بھی بالکل لائق ہے، ان کا اپنا ایک امپریشن ہے اس بارے میں. اور جو میں ساری جو سینس لے رہا ہوں وہ شاید یہی ہے کہ اس میں ہم جلدی نہ کریں، اس کے اندر رولز میں جلدی کریں، رولز بنانے میں جلدی کریں تاکہ ہم ایک انفارمڈ ڈیسیژن لے سکیں مل کے. اور جہاں تک ریکمنڈیشنز کی بات ہے، میں سمجھتا ہوں کہ جسٹس اسلام آباد ہائی کورٹ سے ہمیں ضرور کنسیڈر کرنا چاہیے جسٹس اختر منیب کو. لیکن اسی طرح جب ہم کیسے رشید صاحب کو دیکھ رہے ہیں تو ہمیں باقی بھی ڈیٹا دیکھنا ہے کہ سارے معاملے. لیکن وہاں پہ بھی ایک بات میں ضرور کہنا چاہوں گا کہ ہمیں یہ بھی ملحوظ خاطر رکھنا چاہیے کہ جن صاحب کو ہم نامینیٹ کر رہے ہیں سپریم کورٹ میں ان کے پاس کتنا عرصہ ہوگا سپریم کورٹ میں بیٹھ کے کوئی فیصلے کرنے کا. اگر اسی صرف 3 برس ہیں تو شاید وہ کافی نہیں ہوتا. ہمیں ضرور دیکھنا چاہیے کہ جب ہم سپریم کورٹ میں کسی کو لے کے آ رہے ہیں تو ان کے پاس سفیشینٹ وقت ہونا چاہیے تاکہ وہ بیٹھ کے اس کے اندر ایک جو پارٹیسپیٹری اور کلیکٹیو وزڈم میں دیر تک حصہ لے سکیں. تو میری مؤدبانہ گزارش یہ ہوگی کہ ان معاملات کو فی الحال آپ ڈیفر کر دیں اور رولز بہت تیزی سے بنائیں اور ان رولز کے اوپر اگر ہمارے پاس وہ باکسز بن جائیں اس میں ہم ٹک کر سکیں تو بہت ساری باتوں میں ہماری بحث مباحثہ آئندہ نہیں ہوگا اور ہم اس کے اوپر ایک فعال طریقے سے ایک صائب طریقے سے اور ایک انفارم ڈیسیژن لے سکیں گے. میں شکر گزار ہوں کہ آپ نے مجھے موقع دیا کہ میں اپنی خیالات کا آپ کے ساتھ شیئر کر سکوں، اظہار کر سکوں.
بہت بہت شکریہ جی. جسٹس قاضی فائز صاحب آپ بات کرنا چاہیں گے یا اختر صاحب کے بات کریں گے؟
میں نے آپ سے گزارش کر دی ہے.
اختر صاحب پھر آپ فرمائیے جی.
بہت بہت شکریہ سر. سب سے پہلے میں بھی جسٹس سجاد علی شاہ صاحب کو ویلکم کہوں گا کہ وہ پہلی دفعہ کمیشن میں آئے ہیں اور دعا کروں گا اشتراف صاحب کے لیے کہ ان کو اللہ تعالیٰ جلد سے اتجاب کرے. سر میں بھی زیادہ ٹائم نہیں لوں گا کیونکہ کافی جو باتیں میں کہنا چاہتا ہوں وہ کچھ پہلے سردار صاحب نے اور ہمارے لا منسٹر صاحب نے جو ہے وہ کی ہیں. اینڈ آئی ول آلسو اسٹارٹ ود دی سینیارٹی پرنسپل. یہ ابھی کی بات نہیں ہے، میرے خیال میں مجھے یہ 5واں سال ہے کمیشن، تیسرا چوتھا سال ہے کمیشن میں. شروع سے یہ ہم کہہ رہے ہیں, اور میں نہیں کہہ رہا ہوں, بار متفقہ طور پر تمام بار کونسلز اور تمام بار ایسوسیشنز یہ کہہ رہی ہیں رولز کے اندر امینڈمنٹ کا اور سینیارٹی پرنسپل کو ایڈہر کرنے کا, اور جہاں تک اس کے ساتھ کرائیٹیریا کا کمپیٹنس کا تعلق ہے, اور یا 4 باتیں جو آپ نے اخذ کی تھیں ان جو ایک ہی میٹنگ ہماری رولز کمیٹی کی ہوئی اس کے بعد, یعنی کمپیٹنس اور انٹیگریٹی ان کیپیسٹی اینڈ ٹیمپرامنٹ, یہ ساری میں سمجھتا ہوں کہ ہم رولز کے اندر ان چیزوں کے بارے میں ڈیٹیل سے آنا چاہیے, کیونکہ جب ہم رولز کی بات کر رہے ہیں تو صرف سپریم کورٹ کے لیے نہیں ہے, وہ ہائی کورٹ کے لیے بھی ہے, اور پھر ہائی کورٹ کے اندر ایلیویشنز وکلاء کی طرف سے بھی ہے, ایلیویشن فرام ڈسٹرکٹ جوڈیشری بھی ہے, ٹرائبونلز سے بھی لیے جا سکتے ہیں. تو تمام آسپیکٹس کے بارے میں ہماری فرسٹ جو ہے وہ مؤدبانہ ریکویسٹ پھر اس کمیشن سے اور چیئرمین صاحب سے ہے کہ ہمیں رولز فریم جلد سے جلد کرنے چاہیے. اور جس طرح سے پہلے رولز کمیٹی کئی دفعہ بنی لیکن وہ اس کے بعد پھر اس پر کام نہیں ہو سکا. سیکنڈلی جہاں تک تعلق ہے سندھ کے اندر جو ہے وہ ججز کی ایلیویشن کا, تو سب سے پہلے تو سر میں آئی ایم ویری گریٹفل اینڈ تھینکفل ٹو آنریبل چیئرمین اینڈ آنریبل چیف جسٹس کہ اس میٹنگ کے علاوہ بھی انہوں نے کئی دفعہ ڈسکشن کی اور موقع دیا ہمیں بات کرنے کا. تو ہم نے یہ عرض کیا کہ یہ جو ہمارے چیف جسٹس صاحب ہیں سندھ ہائی کورٹ کے, ان کا نوٹیفیکیشن ایز این ایڈ ہاک جج ابھی تک ہے, ودرا نہیں ہوا ٹو مائی نالج. اگر ان کا نوٹیفیکیشن ایز این ایڈ ہاک جج ابھی تک ہے تو وہ ان کو یہ کیسے نہیں کہہ سکتے کہ وہ کمپیٹنٹ نہیں ہے ٹو بی اے جج آف دی سپریم کورٹ. تو اس لیے پہلے ہمیشہ میں یہ عرض کرتا رہا ہوں کہ بھائی پہلے ان کے بارے میں ڈیسائیڈ کریں کہ بھائی وہ, اور اگر اس کے بعد ابھی وہ ان کو پرماننٹ جج بنانے سے اگر وہ آنے کے لیے بھی انکار کرتے ہیں تو پھر آئی ایگری وتھ سردار صاحب کہ ان کے خلاف پھر کوئی اور کارروائی ہونی چاہیے. تو اس لیے پہلی چیز تو یہیں سے ہمارا سندھ ہائی کورٹ کے بارے میں مسائل جو ہے وہ شروع ہوتے ہیں, اور اسی وجہ سے پہلے بھی میں یہاں خوش قسمتی ہے ہماری سجاد علی شاہ صاحب بھی موجود ہیں اور سرمد صاحب بھی کہ ہماری ہائی کورٹ کے اندر کافی چیزیں ان کئی سالوں کے اندر جو ہے وہ یہ چیزیں ہو رہی ہیں, اور ججز کے اندر بھی, اور میں نے بغیر اس میٹنگ کے بھی کہا ہے کہ ایک عرصے تک ججز ٹی روم میں نہیں جاتے, ایک دوسرے کے ساتھ جو ہے وہ انٹیگونزم ہے. تو یہ سارا ڈیپینڈ کرتا ہے لیڈرشپ پر کہ اگر چیف جسٹس صاحب جو ہے وہ کمانڈ رکھتے ہیں اور بورڈ ہیں اور چیزیں ہیں تو ہائی کورٹ کی فنکشننگ بھی بہتر ہوگی. میں سر کل میں نے ایک لیٹر ریسیو کیا ریزگنیشن, آج وہ اخبار میں بھی آ گیا ہے, کسی ایک سول جج کا, اور وہ سول جج نے جو ہے وہ 6-7-8 پیج کا لیٹر لکھا ہے, سو نائسلی ریٹن لیٹر, اور سو ہی ہیز اینالائز دی فنکشننگ آف دی جوڈیشری ڈسٹرکٹ جوڈیشری سندھ میں. تو اتنی ہمارے ہاں خرابیاں پیدا ہو چکی ہیں کہ ان کو سر آپ کو اور اس کمیشن کو غور کرنے کی ضرورت ہے. جہاں تک اب کہیں کہ کمپیئر کرنے کا, تو اب جسٹ عرفان سادات صاحب کے بارے میں کہا گیا سر, ویری آنیسٹلی اینڈ ٹو مائی ویری لٹل نالج, اگر میں ججمنٹ کمپیئر کرتا ہوں پھل پوٹو صاحب کی تو عرفان سادات صاحب مجھ سے ان سے کہیں آگے نظر آتے ہیں. اب آپ عرفان سے پھل پوٹو صاحب نے جو بیسٹ ججمنٹس ہیں وہ 11 دی ہیں, 8 اس میں سے جو ہے وہ کرمنل سائڈ کی ہیں, 2 جوڈیشل آفیسرز کا سروس میٹر ہے, اور 1 ECL کی پٹیشن ہے. اب ان کا کیا کام ہے جن کو کمپیٹنٹ سمجھا گیا ہے بائی پاسنگ دی آل ابو. تو اس لیے میں تو ان سے کہیں زیادہ کمپیٹنٹ بھی اور ہر لحاظ سے انٹیگریٹی وائز بھی جو ہے وہ عرفان سادات صاحب کو سمجھتا ہوں. ان کی پرسنالٹی کے بارے میں اشارہ کیا ہے ہمارے لا منسٹر صاحب نے پھل پوٹو صاحب کی, اور میں نے آپ کے سامنے میٹنگ سے باہر بھی بتایا ان کی پرسنالٹی کے حوالے سے, اور آپ کی نالج میں بھی آیا ہے. تو زیادہ ہم نہیں ان کی پرسنالٹی کے بارے میں بھی کچھ کہنا چاہتے, لیکن کسی صورت میں بھی ان کو پھل پوٹو صاحب کو سپریم کورٹ کے لیے میں نہیں سمجھتا کہ ان کو یہاں اپوائنٹ کیا جائے. جہاں تک تعلق ہے اس کے بعد عقیل عباسی صاحب کا. سر عقیل عباسی صاحب از ویری کمپیٹنٹ جج. میں نے ان کے ساتھ وکالت کی ہے, میں نے ان کے سامنے کورٹ میں جو ہے وہ روز نہیں تو جو ہے وہ پیش ہوتے رہتے ہیں, اور ان سے زیادہ پولائٹ آدمی کوئی نہیں ہے. جو انسٹینسز آپ نے فرمائی ان کے بارے میں, ان کے ٹیمپرامنٹ کے بارے میں, وہ 2-3 انسیڈنٹ جو ہیں وہ ان کو جب آپ نے بائی پاس کیا تو اس کے بعد یہ چیزیں ہوئیں. جیسے سرمد عثمانی صاحب نے فرمایا کہ بھائی جب آپ ایک صاحب کو اس کی سینیئرٹی کو بائی پاس کریں گے 1 دفعہ 2 دفعہ 3 دفعہ تو وہ ان کے کچھ نہ کچھ اس حوالے سے ان میں تلخی آئے گی. تو اس لیے ان کو یہ نہیں کہہ سکتے کہ ان کو بائی پاس کر کے, جبکہ آپ ابھی بھی یہ کہہ رہے ہیں کہ بھائی ان کو آئندہ کنسیڈر کیا جا سکتا ہے. تو کب ان کو کنسیڈر کیا جا سکتا ہے جبکہ اتنے سالوں سے بغیر کسی ان کی انٹیگریٹی پر کویسچن کے ان کو بائی پاس کر دیا جاتا ہے. تو اس لحاظ سے میں یہ سمجھتا ہوں کہ آئی ہیو نتھنگ ٹو سے اگینسٹ اور جو ہمارے اسد نظر رضوی صاحب ہیں یا شفیع صدیقی صاحب ہیں, لیکن میں سمجھتا ہوں کہ سینیارٹی پرنسپل پر آئندہ ان کو بھی کنسیڈر کیا جا سکتا ہے, لیکن سینیارٹی پرنسپل کو اور کمپیٹنس کو سامنے رکھتے ہوئے ہمیں نمبر 1, 2, 3 میں سے جو ہے فرسٹ ڈیسائیڈ کریں پہلے چیف جسٹس صاحب کا, اور اس کے بعد جو ہے وہ ہو سکتا ہے کہ ایک چیف جسٹس بن جائیں یا نمبر 2 اور 3 پر ہیں ان کو 2 ججز آپ وہاں سے لے سکتے ہیں پریزنٹلی, اور ایک تو ابھی اینٹیسپیٹڈ ویکینسی کے اوپر میں نہیں سمجھتا کہ اس وقت ہمیں اپوائنٹمنٹ کرنی چاہیے. جہاں تک تعلق ہے ہمارے لاہور ہائی کورٹ کا, تو وہ میں ایگری کروں گا لا منسٹر صاحب سے کہ ان کی میری تو اپیرنس ان کے سامنے ہے نہیں, ان کی جس حد تک ججمنٹس دیکھی ہیں میں نہیں سمجھتا کہ اس سے نمبر 1, 2 والے بھی وہ اتنے کمپیٹنٹ نہیں ہیں یا ان کی انٹیگریٹی کے خلاف پر بھی کوئی کویسچن نہیں ہے, تو اس وجہ سے میں ان کو بھی نہیں سپورٹ کرتا. تھرڈلی جو قیصر رشید صاحب کے بارے میں کہا گیا ہے وہ یہ بات صحیح ہے, میں اس سے ایگری کرتا ہوں کہ جو نیکسٹ 2 ججز ہیں ان میں ان کی سروس میں سینیئرٹی میں بھی زیادہ فرق نہیں ہے, تو ان کو بھی کمپیئر کر کے سبسیکوینٹلی ان کو فی الحال ڈیفر کر دیا جائے. لیکن پریزنٹلی جو نامینیشنز آئی ہیں میں ان کو آئی ایم ناٹ ان اے پوزیشن ٹو سپورٹ اٹ.
I think the first thing I want to say to all my colleagues over here is that
ایک ساتھی سر
جی پلیز
سر ایک 10 بس ٹائم سوری میں نے ایک چیز رہی سر, میرا ایک اور بھی عرض کرنا تھا کہ لاہور ہائی کورٹ میں ہم نے گو کہ یہ صحیح فرمایا گیا ہے کہ کوئی ہمارا پروونشل کوٹا نہیں ہے, لیکن اگر پچھلی سارا بھی اگر آپ اٹھا کے دیکھیں انالیسس کر رہے ہیں تو اوور ویلمنگلی لاہور ہائی کورٹ سے 7 ججز رہے ہیں, سندھ ہائی کورٹ سے 5 ججز رہے ہیں, 2 ججز جو ہے وہ پشاور ہائی کورٹ سے, 2 بلوچستان سے, تو ایک اسلام آباد ہائی کورٹ سے ہونا چاہیے. میں سمجھتا ہوں کہ یہ فی الحال تو ہمیں پنجاب سے لینے کی بجائے آلریڈی 7 ججز لاہور ہائی کورٹ سے سپریم کورٹ میں ہیں, اور اگر یہ اپوائنٹمنٹ آپ اسلام آباد ہائی کورٹ سے کریں گے تو آئی ریکویسٹ دیٹ.
I would like to thank all the members of the Commission for giving their valuable thoughts. I would have requested Justice Faez to express his thoughts, but he doesn't want to share them till I've spoken. Out of courtesy, Justice Faez, I'll say something now. But if you have something that requires my input, I would then respond to that. First thing that I can gather from our discussion today is that mashallah, the learned two judges, Justice Tariq Masood Saab and Justice Sarmad Usmani Saab, are both of the view that Mr. Pulpoto writes average judgments. This view appears to be shared by Mr. Akhtar Hussain. And Mr. Tarar, Azam Nazir Tarar also is of the same view. I respect that view. And so I think one thing we can decide is that we will not press his name. ठीक इसमें आपको एक बात बताएं हाँ जी I can you see remember Sardar Sahab, we are talking about a High Court judge and we have to respect their sentiments also in the way they are treated. Just like Mr. Akhtar Hussain and Justice Sarmad Usmani Saab have spoken about how the temperament of Justice Aqil Abbasi may have been affected by the events that have taken place in the recent past. In the same way, we must always remember that whilst treating judges, we must extend them courtesy and respect. Pulpoto Saab is a judge at serial number 7 of the Sindh High Court. He is doing good work. He did not come to us for recommending him. It is on my own inquiries that I selected his name. So if not today, if tomorrow he is good, he'll come. Otherwise, there are 9 people sitting here. They will again analyze his work and come to a conclusion.
The wording here, the name will be put for approval, for sending his name. Approved hai ya not approved hai, there's nothing in between.
Chalo, I'll.
Nothing in between. And the second thing, my brother say you can withdraw it. Withdraw करना है तो पहले स्टार्ट में हो जाना चाहिए था. When decision is being made और उस वक्त सारे लोगों ने कैची है.
Decision has been made.
It has been made.
No.
1, 2, 3, 4 ये बैठे हुए हैं अपने सामने.
Decision चेयरमैन का होता है.
नहीं जिसमें चेयरमैन का होगा
चलें.
विद द मेजॉरिटी होगा. ऐसी बात नहीं
सरदार साहब,
है. आगे मत जाइए. लेकिन अप्रूव्ड एंड डिसअप्रूव्ड 2 लफ्ज हैं सर. ये मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूँ कि ये आगे भी हमारे साथ इस तरह हुआ. जब आयशा की तरफ की बात आई थी, जस्टिस आयशा की, तो वो सडनली उठ के चले गए. 4-4 का हो गया. पता ही नहीं लगा कि उन्होंने फैसला क्या किया. होना तो ये चाहिए था कि when they put the name of the Aisha, Justice Aisha, and it was not approved by the commission, then must be written that it has not been approved. और ये देखें सर, ये इस तरीके से इससे तो फिर मामला ही नहीं एंड होता. रोज दूसरे दिन फिर वही बंदे आ जाएंगे जी, तीसरे दिन फिर वही बंदे आ जाएंगे. आ सकते होंगे तो मुझे कोई इतराज नहीं है, लेकिन एटलीस्ट टुडे जो आज वर्ड है वो ये है कि देयर नेम हैज बीन डिसअप्रूव्ड. बस दिस आई यू नीड, यही मिनट्स में आना चाहिए.
Chale, we'll keep that in mind. We'll keep that in mind. You feel very strongly about this because you did the same thing when we had said the same thing when we had the Sindh High Court elevations in mind under consideration. And I understand your point of view. You are concerned that once someone is rejected, then he should not come up again. बस ठीक है.
कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बताएगा. लेकिन इसको तो यही है कि देयर नेम हैज नॉट बीन दे हैज नॉट बीन अप्रूव्ड. ये
चले, ठीक है जी, understood. Now, with respect to the other names, the suggestion which appears to have been made is that we should settle the rules. and thereafter take up these elevations. So, on those names, I think that there is no serious objection right now on a one-to-one basis, and there is, on the other hand, a suggestion that we should consider some other learned judges who have been mentioned during the discussion on account of their competence and capability and so forth, integrity being the first, for elevation to the, or for appointment to the Supreme Court. So, in relation to the remaining judges or judges that I've proposed, I would say that let's defer this meeting and examine the possibility of reducing our criteria into a firm basis for assessing candidates. The only request in this behalf I would make to you is that when I was sitting with Mr. Akhtar Hussain and Justice Sarmad Usmani Saab and the Attorney General at that time, we had a fruitful discussion, and these were the 4 points that emerged, which have now been treated by me as the ruling criteria. In addition to that, the consideration that we should assess the candidates on a seniority basis. Now, this will only happen in the Supreme Court because the high courts are not based on seniority, except for the district court judges, district judiciary judges. For the Supreme Court, we should go in accordance with seniority. Now, I have tried to subscribe that principle in making my proposals. I've tried to give reasons favoring the candidates I have recommended and the learned judges who have been bypassed. The difficulty I was facing, and this I want to share particularly with Sardar Tariq Masood Saab, because he has been very vociferous about this, and so also Mr. Akhtar Hussain, who has also voiced the feeling of the bar. The difficulty is that once you have the criteria, you cannot turn it into an objective thing. Many of our considerations are subjective. In terms of integrity, I think all of us agree that there should be zero tolerance. Any judge of any quality, however superior, cannot be tolerated unless he is pure and honest. So, on integrity, we don't have a problem. On competence, we already have different views about different judges. We have to be very careful when we start expressing our views on judgments, one. And number two, we have to keep in mind the kind of work we have in the Supreme Court. Seniority in the High Court is on account of their induction. The appointment to the Supreme Court is on account of their excellence in all the different attributes that are required in a judge of the Supreme Court. The 4 attributes may be the minimum, or they may have other shades which we can add, but at the moment the important thing is we should bring the finest material to the Supreme Court, as Mr. Tarar just said. In this regard, it is also very important to keep in mind the kind of work that is required in the Supreme Court. For instance, you would be amused to know that there are 6,823 civil matters arising out of regular first appeals, second appeals, and civil revisions. 6,800. On the other hand, there are 10,118 cases pertaining to criminal matters, excluding NAB cases and bail applications. In 2019, we were informed that the criminal cases in the Supreme Court have ended and they have been finished. No pending case. Actually, what was stated was about the criminal appeals that were pending. But we have thousands of criminal petitions that are still pending. And Mr. Tarar is right in saying that we must look for a judge with criminal law specialty. Now, the point is that in Sindh, you have to keep in mind the complexion of that society. And that was one of the factors I kept in mind. Number two, we want a gentleman who can be a good support for a senior judge. Because if someone is coming for 3 years or 4 years, we have judges who can lead the bench, but they need support. What has happened, transpired today is that persons amongst members of the commission who are familiar with criminal law, they have opined that the quality of appreciation of law as well as record and evidence in Mr. Fulporto's judgments is very average. Now, my understanding from my conversations with people was different. Conversations with persons who were dealing with him as advocates or as judges. But I respect that, and so I think to that extent we should go by the opinion. Insofar as the rest of your desires or wishes are concerned, please understand that from day one we cannot lay down something and then discover that it's a straitjacket. It is constraining us. It is far better to discuss things like this. For instance, in the Supreme Court, we decide questions of law, in constitutional matters, in civil matters, complicated questions of law, complicated questions of, for instance, tax, regulatory matters that come before us. And we are resolving those issues, so we need judges who have that capacity to interpret the law. One, we need judges who have capacity to deal with pure civil law. So we have to make a mix and at the same time observe the kind of ratio that has been in practice in the Supreme Court for representation from different provinces. In 1997, the Number of Judges Act, Supreme Court Number of Judges Act 1997 laid down that there will be a Chief Justice plus 16 judges. Now I was looking at a chart that I have that to start with in 97 we only had 13 judges. The first time we had 17 judges was a few months later, but then again it fell down. It fell down to 12 in 2000 and then it rose back to 17. The ratio, as Mr. Akhtar just mentioned, and I showed in this chart, for Sindh is mostly 5 judges. And for Punjab, it is mostly 7 and even 8 judges. At times, we have had 8 judges, one of them being an ad hoc judge. And this is how it's been going, 7 to 8. Balochistan has mostly had 1 or 2, and in the year 2009 until the year 2011, we have had 3 judges from Balochistan, but back to 1 in 2011. And 2013 and 14, for some reason, there was no judge from Balochistan. So the figure has been varying, but there is a certain ratio to which the numbers would come back. I want you, gentlemen, to understand that instead of treating this thing as one unity, we must respect the provincial entitlements. This has been done as a convention by the Supreme Court. So on that basis, what I suggest is we should be thinking of increasing the numbers. I have been thinking about this, and if you gentlemen agree, endorse my point of view, and I can approach the government for legislation, for the amendment in the Act, so that we can have a couple of more judges. This will give us more freedom. And in any case, with 50,000 cases pending, we need more work to be done, which requires more hands. So that's the other thing. But I would request you that putting down things in rules immediately is a difficult thing. It's not that easy. If we sit down and start analyzing the different facets of a judge's character, his disposition, his work and so forth, we might with the time, with experience, be able to refine that. Today, I have seen that the analysis of judgments by Justice Tariq is excellent remark. But incidentally, I have done the same analysis. And I'll just give you the figures. That how many the data that you have from the data provided by the learned judges, and these are judges, all the judges from the Supreme Court and all the judges from the Lahore High Court, but obviously only one judge from the Peshawar High Court. Sir, one of the lowest figures for reversal of judgments by the Supreme Court is for Sayyid Hassan Azhar Rizvi. He has had the finest record in terms of judgments. Mr. Nadeem Akhtar, who is a very fine judge, sir, 15.8% of his judgments were reversed. And I'm basing it on the written data provided by him. If I go to Pulpoto, it is 18%. And Shahid Waheed is 7%. But when I look at the result of Shujaat Ali Khan, it is less. But you look at his work. What is the diversity? Most of his work is in writ petitions. He is deciding rent matters in writ petitions, family matters in writ petitions. The main thing is the core work lies in appeals or revisions. He hasn't done that. He's never worked really on the civil side. So what we do today is, let me request all of you to apply the same criteria. If you need more data, I'll bring the data. But if you connect it with the framing of rules, that will take time. We will be short of 5 judges next month. And we have 50,000 cases to decide. My request to you, gentlemen, is to apply your minds the way you have applied today, so that we make positive progress. When we evaluate the next candidates, give me any more criteria, any more data that you want, I'll put it together. And you know, the other thing which I must inform you about is that on account of the criticism that our registrar has faced, he has gone on leave. And he's told me, sir, I'm a grade 22 officer, I've had a good career. I can't work in these conditions. What is the result, Sardar Tariq Masood Sahab? Sir, I have written all this material. I had no assistance. So we have to work as a team, and we have to build our team, strengthen our team. And that means that whatever we do, it must have a certain degree of coordination and understanding. Imagine the kind of proceedings we've had today and what we did on 28th of June for 5 hours. I'm so grateful to each one of you for being focused and for being so clear in your formulations and statements. So, with your consent, gentlemen, let's say goodbye to Mr. Fulpoto. And I think to satisfy Justice Tariq Masood Saab, we would say that he has been considered but not found fit for elevation. Is this what you want to say? Not recommended. Not recommended for elevation. ठीक है जी? Okay. For the rest, we defer to meet again and for me to make further and other recommendations. You have given me some names. I don't want to discuss my reservations about Justice Akil Abbasi. I have material on that. Mr. Akhtar knows about it. And Mr. Tarar knows about it. And I have mentioned to some extent Justice Tariq Masood Saab also knows about it. But today I will tell you that I will meet him personally and I will form an opinion about him. If necessary, I will request one of my colleagues in this commission to join me and we can have an exchange with him, exchange of thoughts and so forth. And I'll come back and report that. In an informal meeting, without a formal meeting, I'll inform you I have respect for him. I mean, I have no connection with Karachi, no personal likes or dislikes, but I go by the record. I know of 3 incidents which took place, but agreed, Mr. Akhtar is right, all these incidents took place after he was bypassed. Okay? Let's see if it is workable. Otherwise, I'll place that material before you and you can think about it. जी जी इसको दबा दें.
I don't want to change your opinion or to contradict Sardar Sahab. But one thing I'll say that Mr. Fulpoto, I know him personally. He was with me on the bench for 6 years.
अच्छा.
And his honesty is beyond question. तारिक साहब सरदार साहब को जो खबर मिली है मैं वो उसकी हद तक क्योंकि इन्होंने ये बात यहाँ कही है तो आई वांटेड टू ब्रिंग दिस कि नहीं सरदार साहब ने जो बात देखे ना वो नहीं देखे वो मैंने एक आई जस्ट वांटेड टू मैं इनको कॉन्ट्रडिक्ट नहीं कर रहा. पहले मैंने ये कहा है, मैं किसी को कॉन्ट्रडिक्ट नहीं कर रहा. बट जब ये एक बात आई है इंटीग्रिटी पे तो आई जस्ट वांटेड टू ब्रिंग इट ऑन.
आप बिल्कुल ठीक कह रहे हैं एंड इट विल बी वेरी हर्टफुल फॉर हिम.
यस,
ये अगर ऐसी बात
आप देखें ना सबको डेफर कर रहे हैं, आप उसको वो कर रहे हैं और आपने 4-4 का वोट है इस वक्त, तो फिर आप उसको ड्रॉप कैसे कर रहे हैं? 4-4 का वोट है. अनलेस यू देखे ना
सबके लिए वोट मंगवा
नहीं तो देखे ना ये यही बात है ना. नहीं मैंने देखिए तारिक साहब आप गुस्सा नहीं करें प्लीज. मैं आप चले.
We are adjourning now because
No, I have not spoken, sir. At least hear me. You can't do this. You had agreed to let me speak. If you are going to do this, then
काजी
I am
साहब
going
ठीक है,
to.
आप फरमाएं जी फरमाएं. आप प्लीज बताइए क्या कहना चाहते हैं.
नहीं जरा मुझे आपने जब अग्री कर लिया उठ के चले जाए, ये तो सही नहीं है. अच्छा, थैंक यू वेरी मच ऑनरेबल चीफ जस्टिस شاہ صاحب اگر تشریف رکھیں تو میں کنٹینیو کرنے کی اجازت دے. Sir, first things first, I like to call a spade, and maybe I'm not so flowery in my language, but never to my conscious knowledge say anything wrong. Anticipated vacancies are an illegality and unconstitutional. Look at the people in this room. Can they even contemplate violating the Constitution of Pakistan? The first point. The second point is on Article 206, seeking opinions from certain judges and not from certain judges, or certain judges unilaterally writing to the Chief Justice. I don't want to be here. Sir, there was a time when you asked me this. Maybe even now, I would have said the same thing. Does that mean anything? Are we making 206 redundant? If a person asks and he says, yes, I want to be there, probably that's a disqualifying factor. The Constitution has provided a solution. You don't ask, you don't hear a person, sir, I want to become a judge of the Supreme Court. Sir, I don't want to become a judge of the Supreme Court. If we start doing this, we are violating the Constitution of Pakistan. We're talking about conventions. Here I'm talking about the letter of the Constitution. Please do not violate the Constitution. Please let us not rewrite the Constitution. I don't have such powers, nor do I claim such powers. Then we have talked about, there is another aspect. We immediately disregard the Chief Justices. After all, sir, you sit there because of being senior most. Your predecessors sat in your chair because they were senior most. Of course, the answer will come immediately. The Constitution provides that. Let us then not see the spirit of the Constitution and other reasons in the Constitution. Who sits on the Supreme Judicial Council? The junior most judge in this High Court? No. 2 senior most Chief Justices. Why? That is the spirit of the Constitution. 2 senior most Chief Justices. They can remove the judges in this room, but they're not fit to be appointed as judges to the Supreme Court. What irony. So if we are going to innovate, I do not like innovating with the Constitution or playing with the Constitution. I go by the letter of the Constitution. When that is not available, I look elsewhere in the Constitution. When that is not available, I look to the spirit of the Constitution. What does the Chief Justice bring to this court? Chief Justice brings experience as a Chief Justice. I could call myself a fairly successful lawyer, but what I learned as Chief Justice, I never would have learned as a judge. I had to deal with so many other matters. You know it, and all those who've been Chief Justice know it as well. It's altogether a different ball game. So we are saying, Chief Justices, you have gained such valuable experience. You can remove us sitting on the Supreme Judicial Council, but we're not fit enough to be brought here arbitrarily. By all means, consider them, analyze them, reject them. I have no issue. Bypass them, whatever word you want to use. But let's not first in army faction say, who wants to, you are volunteering for the job. No, sir. This is, first of all, we are all, and I respect each and every one of you, great learned constitutional minds. If I was known for any capacity, it was certainly not criminal law which brought me to the Supreme Court. But what was I made to give? What work I was given for 2 years? Criminal work. The areas of my expertise I was not given. So to again penalize a Chief Justice or Judge, oh, but he hasn't done this work. Is it his fault that he's not done this work? You're not addressing that. Naturally, can Akil Abbasi or can Pulpoto or whoever say, I want to be given that work? I considered Sardar Saab as expert in criminal law. He sat with me in civil law and I was stunned. His ability, I mean, for a person of this experience, it doesn't require much to shift gears. I hear cases of a law I've never heard about. And you need analysis, you need analytical skill. It is not after 40 years of learning, if you can't do that, and if you don't know basics of civil law or basics of criminal law, then sorry sir, you don't want to be elevated to the Supreme Court, you should be shunted out of the judiciary, full stop. I was stunned with Sardar Saab's analytical skills on civil law. I had the opportunity, a brief, pleasant opportunity to sit with him. As far as temperament, we are stressing temperament and law. Sir, I have sat with some chief justices. Shall I mention their temperament? They were obnoxious. What to speak of a good temperament? Sir, I corrected them. How many of us did? Sir, there are people in this room. I say with the greatest respect, don't mind my saying so. Well, they spoke. मैंने बाद में कहा मैं भी डर गया आपकी बात करने से, पता नहीं वकील और लिटिगेंट का क्या बना होगा. Not that they were, that was a style of speaking. It wasn't that they were downplaying it. But I got scared. I said, sir, khaiye to hai. So please, there is no disrespect intended, and that's why I'm not naming them. So let's not make these artificial constructs and then fit a square into a round hole. So that is not on. And so with the greatest of respect and humility and the greatest of respect that I hold you in, you don't have the unilateral power to nominate anybody. You are equal. We, all of us, nominate, not you. Then we, all of us, carry one vote and decide. Hopefully it doesn't come to ballot casting and winning and losing. This is not about winning and losing. This is looking to the future. Now you are bypassing chief justices and senior judges. I have the chart before me and I just opened it on the internet, and take for instance Balochistan, the senior most and the chief justice and the senior most judge will retire in a couple of years. There cannot be better judges in the entire high courts of Pakistan than they are. You have spoken about I know this person and I know this person. Nobody has mentioned I know Chief Justice Naeem Akhtar on I know Senior Puni Hashim Khan Kakar. So, and to say that there are no other experts, Jamal Saab Mandokhail is an expert in constitutional as well as an expert in criminal law. His name, why was it not mentioned? Because for the simple reason, you don't know. But you're not prepared to hear people. You say, I met, with the greatest respect, sir, you met Akhtar Saab and you met so and so. Sir, we share a common boundary wall. You never meet me. So, but anyways, that's your discretion. I can offer some bad advice or maybe some good advice at times. So these are matters of grave urgency. Criteria committee, I was not a part of. So you headed it. Please, sir, sir, patience. I heard everyone. Sir, I didn't utter a word this time. So I did not. And then you sign that we have to meet again, and then you produce a criteria. So, sorry, sir, it is, as a Muslim, it is my duty to, if someone speaks wrong, to say so. So that is wrong. Your own handwriting says the criteria has not been settled. Competence, integrity, can anybody say, no, we want incompetent judges, no, we want judges who want integrity, no, we want dishonest judges. That's a given. That's no fundamental brainer that we want this. We want how to analyze. Now, why are we discarding, why are we choosing straight away, going to judges who are at way below the seniority? Is there any justification? Are we even, no mention is made of Ahmed Ali Sheikh, one letter, and he has, what he went through is hell. I went through hell. I can say, I don't want to be a judge of the Supreme Court. So, is that enough? If I don't want to, I'll resign. But if you say want, it's not a question of my desire. I consider it my duty, not my desire. If it was my desire, I would not be a judge one single day. I have become a judge. Now I'll do my duty.
Sir,
my dying breath.
Qazi Saab,
सर जरा 2 मिनट और बात करने दें.
काजी साहब, अब ये इसको आप मुकम्मल करें ना. बात तो आपकी हमने मान के एक प्रॉमिस आप करें, आप एक प्रॉमिस कर दें मुझे कि जब आप इस्लामाबाद आते हैं तो आप इस अंदाज में मेरे साथ बात करेंगे जैसे आप कर रहे हैं, तो फिर इंशाल्लाह देखना कि हमारी कितनी आपस में डिस्कशंस होंगे.
मेरा अंदाज सर बहुत अच्छा है, आप भी थोड़ा सा मेरा अंदाज
आराम सरदार तारिक साहब को बताएंगे अपने.
अच्छा चलें, ठीक है सर, मैं अब मुझे जरा से बात करने दें. मैं चाहता हूं कि ये हम मुस्तरद करें इस बात को कि ऑनरेबल चीफ जस्टिस हैज द सोल डिस्क्रेशन टू अपॉइंट जजेस. मैं इस बात पे वोट करें कि द जुडिशियल कमीशन ऑफ पाकिस्तान will discuss the matter, and not it should be done unilaterally by only consider the 5 volunteers put forward in true military fashion to volunteer for the mission. No, let's consider 10, let's consider 20. Let's
Thank you.
consider
Thank you, sir.
put forward later. And
Sardar sir wants to say
always consider that. Let me just conclude. All prior to that, that this is the decision of the meeting, not deferment. Sorry, this is the decision of the meeting. That it is already we have wasted a time. It's always thrown in my face. The meeting is being wasted. Let us achieve something positive. Let us achieve something positive. Let us achieve better quality meeting after.
آپ نے کر لیا پازیٹیو سر, جتنا پازیٹیو ہو سکتا تھا آج. اب بس تھینک یو سر. لیٹس رائز ناؤ. Thank you.
Just 1 minute, sir.
So now we should now accept nominations from all.
سر نا منٹ سے کچھ آئے گا کہ کس نے اپوز کیا, کس نے نہیں کیا, کچھ
یہ اٹھ کے چلے گئے, مطلب یہ ختم ہی نہیں ہوئی میٹنگ.
جن کر دیے سر.
یہ کیسی میٹنگ ختم, یہ کیسی میٹنگ ختم ہو گئی؟
کیوں پوچھا, مجھ سے کیوں پوچھا,
چیئرمین اٹھ کے چلے جائیں. بہرحال میرا ان کو پھر بھی شکریہ.